Of course, we have a lot to talk about. I'm going to give the credit to the Salt Lake Tribune and then also the Athletic and Chris Kamrani. A records request was fulfilled, and credit the University of Utah for doing this, by the way. There are a lot of schools, as our friend Matt Brown has pointed out quite a bit, that kick the can down the road or never respond to these public record requests, but Utah did that. And look, we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to say right off the top that I'm not all that surprised about this information that has become public today about what I'll call an uncomfortable ending to the Kyle Whittingham era at the University of Utah. If you listen to the show, first, thank you for doing that. Second of all, we've talked about this basically alluding to possibilities without revealing a ton of information to protect certain conversations. There are a lot of people that I get information from, and I want to protect those relationships to make sure I can continue to get information regarding Utah athletics. I was the guy that told you Cameron Rising and Brant Keith, you weren't going to play after like week 2 or 3, and y'all got mad at me online. I could keep going, but we'll get into it on the show today and kind of walk you through as much of this as we can and be responsible here. We don't do radio to place blame on one person or the other, but some illuminating information about Kyle Whittingham, about communication between Kyle Whittingham's agent and the Utah Athletic Department, a strongly worded letter written by Utah Athletic Director Mark Harlan, and the succession plan put in place that led to Morgan Scalley taking over as the head coach of Utah football. Speaking of Morgan Scalley, we will be talking to him today. So stay tuned for that conversation. So we'll get to it. A lot going on. Of course, March Madness. There was a game earlier between Kentucky and Santa Clara that was almost unlike anything I've ever seen before. Take out away kid hit a 40-foot bank three to send it to overtime after Santa Clara took a 3-point lead. And Kentucky ended up winning. We're about 5 minutes away from tip-off with Utah State and Villanova at the Viejas Arena in San Diego, California. Utah State a slight favorite in that game. Hofstra is hanging with Bama. Okay, so we'll get to the madness of March. Arizona had no problems. Virginia pulled away at the end. Texas Tech uncomfortable for a moment against Akron, but they caught fire down the stretch, 91-71. Texas Tech out of the Big 12 gets the win. Now, yesterday, we saw the season come to a close for BYU. Number 11, Texas, upsetting number 6, BYU. And Texas more or less had the lead all game long. They ended up winning 79-71. They were never all that uncomfortable. A.J. DeBonsa, once again, was brilliant with 35 points, 10 rebounds. Rob Wright decided to put the cape on down the stretch, and you just should have ridden A.J. So a lot of conversation about return on investment and such. I'll remind everybody we're here in Salt Lake City, where for 2 straight years, Utah football badly struggled as a result of injuries, and it's important to remember that maybe 4 of their top rotational pieces were either hurt and out all year, or in Richie Saunders' case, missed the rest of the season. And players like Alexei Kostic and Kadeem Boop, who can't even dribble, were forced to play. Mihailo Boskovic and such. They're bringing Abdullah Ahmed in mid-season. Didn't do much at all. Didn't see any pushback yesterday from former UK Bakeda, and they needed it because the Matas Vokalaitis kid just went crazy with 23 points and 16 rebounds. They could do nothing with him, so BYU season comes to an end. I would say that this might be the most disappointing season in BYU basketball history based off of preseason expectations, and I'm pointing the finger at myself. I thought this team would be a top 3 team in league. I thought they had a chance to maybe go to an Elite 8 or a Final 4. But if there's one silver lining, watching A.J. DeBonsa play has been a delight, man. That kid is awesome. Sean Miller was asked during a timeout, like, hey, what do you do to slow that guy down? He's like, we can't. There's no way. And he was right. A.J. with 35 points, and, they couldn't do much of anything with him. All right. Some NBA storylines right off the top. Probably not a lot with the Salt Lake Stars, who are wearing Jazz jerseys right now. They did win last night, so I'm not sure what you're doing there. Howard Beck is our first guest right out of the gates to talk a little NBA. And don't forget, Morgan Scally coming up at 3:30. Now, here's the situation. We're just going to be upfront about this. I'm walking over to KUTV. So if you're watching March Madness yeah, we'll get there. If you're watching March Madness on CBS at about 3:30, there's a gap between games, but keep your TV on because we're going to televise this over at KUTV. I'm going to sit down with Morgan Scally for about 20, 25 minutes. So nice of Morgan to come down during spring football because he's got to run back up on the hill, and I've got to run back over here where we'll do the rest of the show that includes Gordy Chiesa live in studio. So it's a little fluid. We got some nervous folk in the engineering room, both at Broadway Media and at KUTV. We are going to figure it out. Dave Fox is having a panic attack. He needs to either look at one of his 2 Pelotons or one of his 2 Emmys and just relax. So there you go. That's the show on a Friday afternoon. Happy Friday, weekend time. Beautiful day, man. I hope you have something fun planned for the weekend. Howard Beck, Morgan Scally, Gordy Chiesa, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners. And that guy, Porter Larson, who is a big part of this radio show. And if we go back to December and January, well, quite frankly, in February and March, and, for the past 3 or 4 months, anytime the WIT stuff has surfaced, and the conversation has turned into, okay, what exactly happened here? All the information that is public now, it basically things we discussed at the time. Now, you couldn't be as direct to spell out all the information, but I'm the one that told you he didn't want to leave. I'm the one that told you he wanted a contract extension. I'm the one that told you there was a faction of people up there that were ready for him to move on, and a faction of people up there that believe he earned the right to call his shots. Anything about today's news catch you as surprising?
No, not really necessarily anything that caught me off guard. I don't want to belabor the point, but if you did listen to this show as early as like December 12th or 13th, we were talking about a little bit of prickliness in the situation there. If you listen to the show, even then, you may have heard a particular producer mention Michigan. So
that would have been you, by the way.
That would have been me,
not Zach, who was filling in.
Oh yeah,
All
no,
right.
just to be clear.
All right.
And listen, I think that it's not uncommon for these things to be a little uncomfortable, a little awkward. That was only added to by the fact that Kyle essentially changed his mind during the Kansas State game, like during the Thanksgiving break, right? He had until, I want to say, December 2nd to notify the University of Utah his plans, and his plans on December 2nd changed. Kyle has to wear that aspect of it. The rest of the university and the rest of the folks that are still here have to wear the other part of it, which is it got awkward. You had to essentially tell and decide upon moving on from a coach that is historic on your campus. And there's just no like clean break in that situation. And we see that now. We see that now in documents, in emails and such. And we see now that prickly ongoing relationship is not necessarily over with. There's payouts to be in the future. There's payouts that are contingent upon things in the future. And that's it's unfortunate, I think, but I think that it's also something that is hinged upon Kyle Whittingham, a coach who 5 years ago thought he had about 5 years left and acted accordingly and then changed his mind. I'm a Kyle guy. You know I'm a Kyle guy, but he's got to wear a lot of that in that regard. And there's responsibility and culpability on all parties involved here. And I guess essentially now it's just up to everyone to move on how they wish.
All this on the heels of the Taylor Frankie Paul news. Like, what's going on here?
Of course, right.
You know, like it's been a chaotic 24 hours.
Will you take this rose?
Oh, my goodness. Here in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Will you take this Rose Bowl?
Oof, man. You know what? We'll stay away from that today. Howard Beck's going to be our first guest on this gorgeous Chamber of Commerce Friday afternoon day here in Salt Lake City. But before Howard stops by, courtesy of our good friends, your good friends at Prize Picks, it's time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN 700 with Prize Picks.
You can shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. Prize Picks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, at every board that much more exciting. Don't miss this chance to get started on America's #1 app for sports picks. It is available in Utah, so you're in the clear there. No worries. They've got a new feature alert, which is early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use that promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup, because on Prize Picks, it is good to be right. March Madness update. I'm not usually good at filling out brackets. This is probably the worst I've ever done. Go to ESPN700sports.com and mock me because it's not good. And I want to remind you that the madness is upon us. The ESPN 700 92.1 FM $1 Million Bracket Challenge is live now. Brought to you in part by Big Willie's, Game Day Men's Health, Intermountain Bobcat, Budweiser, the Intermountain Sportsman's Expo, Burger Fusion, and the Utah RV Super Show. All right, the University of Utah released a bunch of public records today to a bunch of different outlets. I will give the credit to the Salt Lake Tribune and the Athletic. Our guy Chris Comrani from the Athletic, and then Jason Patacchio from the Salt Lake Tribune were able to kind of unpack this. Porter, let's pod that music down. So let's go over kind of what we know at this point. And before I dig into this information, because essentially, I want to be clear, this comes down to, well, a lot of things, but Kyle's agent is a guy named Bruce Tollner, and he sent 2 emails in succession. It's kind of been reported that there was a gap between the two. No, these were 2 emails that were sent from Bruce Tollner to Utah Associate AD Jeff Rudy that essentially said Coach Whittingham does not intend to retire at the conclusion of the 2025 football season. But before we get there, some context, okay? Growing up around this stuff and seeing a lot of coaches and players and executives in the world of professional sports go through negotiations and unceremonious exits, oftentimes uncomfortable exits. Like Dave Chappelle in one of his stand-ups said, heroes die uncomfortable deaths, right? Or the old saying we talk about all the time, either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain. This isn't all that uncommon. I think it feels uncommon here because it doesn't happen very often. You know, we could discuss what happened with Jerry Sloan at the end after the stuff with D. Will went down. That was an uncomfortable ending, right? The Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, Quinn Snyder, Dennis Lindsey Jazz team being basically dismantled brick by brick by new ownership, or just guys deciding they don't want to stay here and work for the new ownership anymore and then just leaving, and suddenly a brand new era of Jazz basketball, and 4 years later we're still waiting for a team that's serious. But when you look at, you know, the way it ended with Ron McBride was a little uncomfortable. You know, he and Chris Hill, that's well documented. But Witt was the coach for 2 decades, very stable tenure, very successful tenure with Rose Bowls and Pac-12 championships and a bevy of players sent to the professionals. You know, the Bronco ending down at BYU was a little uncomfortable. You could tell that he was sick of being criticized by the fan base, as he said himself. He basically admitted later on that he didn't think independence was sustainable. And, oh, by the way, at the time, Virginia basically tripled his salary. But Kalani takes over, and a decade later, you know, outside of some uncomfortable moments in independence because that was really difficult, he's kind of solidified the thing. There have been some coaching changes at Utah. The Majerus stuff is well documented, what happened there with Lance Allred and Dr. Hill having to make it a decision. And then, you know, the coaching situation with the basketball team, it's changed a bunch of different times. And a lot of Larry Kraskowiak fans believe he got the wrong end of the deal. But this feels a little heavier and meatier than most of those other things because it's Witt and because it's Utah football and because Kyle now lives in Ann Arbor with maybe one of the top 5 jobs in all of college football. But as far as how it went down, competitive, if you want to say alpha males, I just hate that term, unless it's AlphaCon, because shout out to those guys. Competitive, high-powered people with millions and millions of dollars on the line negotiating about what you believe you deserve on one side, then on the other side, doing what's best for the football program and the university. I read through all of these documents, and there was not one point where I was like, oh, no, woof, that's crazy. Kyle was asking for what he believes he had earned, and I think there's a case to be made that as a result of what Kyle Whittingham did for Utah football, he earned the right to call his shot, to tell us when he was done. I think that's valid. You can get mad at that if you want, but, for you younger football fans who are on Twitch and hitting your vape, once upon a time, this was a football program that, let's win 6 games and maybe stay competitive with BYU and go to a bowl game. That context is important because Kyle Whittingham built Utah football into something that a lot of people never thought it could be, certainly in the modern day. And after going from the Mountain West Conference to the Pac-12, the question as to whether or not Utah football could hang with the big boys was answered emphatically by Whit. And not Whit alone. Football's a team game, right? I mean, a lot of people deserve credit for the evolution of Utah football. Chris Hill does, Kyle Whittingham does, Morgan Scalley does, Ron McBride does, and continues to deserve it. Andy Ludwig does. The end wasn't great, but man, he had some great offenses for a few years. Cameron Rising does. I could keep going. I could name probably 200 people today that deserve credit for the evolution of Utah football, going from the WAC to the Mountain West to the Pac-12, winning winning Pac-12 championships, unfortunately not winning Rose Bowls, but going to Rose Bowls, sending dozens of players onto the NFL, and competing year in and year out, for the most part, a couple of years with horrible injuries and horrible luck, in a very good football conference. And now in the Big 12. And really haven't missed a beat as it pertains to transfer portal and name, image, and likeness. Yeah, they haven't won a Big 12 championship in a couple of tries, but Morgan is now at the helm. He solidified everything he needed to after Whit took 6 coaches with him to Ann Arbor, leading Morgan to give a press conference after the Vegas Bowl in which he said, if you don't think we have a plan, you don't know who we are. And all of us sat back and was like, okay, let's see how this guy traverses the space. And boom, he's got to replace 6 coaches. And boom, he does it in 72 hours. Devin Dampier's back. Bert Ficklin's back. They got to replace those offensive linemen, as we talked about. But ultimately, Coach Whit, in 20-plus years as the head coach and 30-plus years as a coach, still deserves a tremendous amount of love and respect from anybody who cares about Utah football. Because as we talked about on the show, he did not want to stop coaching. And it's pretty clear based off of these documents and these emails that there were people up there that were ready for him to go. And you can feel about that however you want. Okay, we don't do this radio show to be like, oh, this is a horrible look for Mark Harlan, or how dare Kyle Whittingham be so greedy. This is a complex, nuanced situation involving very smart, high-powered people who all have different agendas and different motivations. If you're a coach, your dream is to have your own program and win conference championships and build a football program that's among the best in the Western United States. And guess what? When you do that, you have leverage to go to your employer and say, pay me more money. That's not abnormal. You can think Whit is greedy. Okay, that's fine. I don't. We all do what we do for a living. So at some point, we have leverage and the opportunity to go to our employer and say, hey, I've been performing for you for years. Pay me what you owe me. Pay me what I deserve on the open market. That's what Kyle was doing here. I said after it all went down, he did not want to leave. It was very obvious. I said after it went down, I was told that not only did he not want to leave, but he asked for a contract extension and he asked for more money, and he did. I said when it all went down, there were major players up there, namely the big money people, that were ready for Morgan. And it appears that that's the deal. And if you didn't think the relationship between Mark Harlan and Coach Witt was a little bit icy, we know now that it was. And it was pretty obvious on a number of different levels. But now we have documentation. So let's get into a couple of pieces here. So again, new documents obtained by the Trib, public records request, shed light on the details here. And I think the bulk of it is the communication between Bruce Tollner, who is Coach Witt's agent, and the two emails, again, that were written back-to-back. That's been a little bit sloppy there, to the associate AD, Jeff Rudy. So, quote, this is from Coach Witt's agent, Bruce Tollner. Quote, Coach Whittingham made clear his hope and desire to remain as head football coach at the University of Utah under the current this is the statement. We'll start with the statement that Bruce Tollner sent the Salt Lake Tribune. Coach Whittingham made clear his hope and desire to remain as the head football coach at the University of Utah under the current contract. When the university chose to move in a different direction, we negotiated a separation agreement in good faith and fully complied with every term. Okay, so the bulk of it is, when did Kyle change his mind? Porter says K-State game, and maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Maybe he realized that he had a good team with some potential to be better and decided he wanted to keep going. Okay, so not only did he want to come back, he did ask for an extension. He did ask for a raise. But most people up there were working off the assumption that he was done and it was Morgan's time. Witt's contract also included an annual deadline for him to provide written notice of his retirement decision to the Utah Board of Trustees and Mark Harlan. On December 2nd, Kyle's agent informed the Utah Athletic Department that Witt wanted to coach for another season. Here it is. Quote, as we discussed, Coach Whittingham does not intend to retire at the conclusion of the 2025 football season. And then the email was sent with Coach Witt's demands. Well, that's heavy. Coach Witt's financial requests, which were a salary of $9 to $9.6 million, an NIL budget of $20 million, and an assistant coach salary pool increase of $2 million. On December 6th, Associate Athletic Director John Gent sent an email to Rudy and Associate AD John Greco outlining the terms of a contract amendment that would map a transition to new coach Morgan Scalley. And I'll just kind of give you a couple outlines because it's a little bit bulky and meaty. You can go read the whole thing. Go to sltrib.com. They got everything there. But in the outline proposal, kind of the counter proposal from Utah after Witt's agents made his, I'm just going to say financial request. Demands feels like we're talking about a world issue here. So Utah comes back with a proposal that Witt would get a deal worth $8 million in total for his final season, which would have been this upcoming season. But the stipulations were Morgan Scalley would have, quote, full and final oversight over decisions involving recruiting, player personnel, the program's general manager, and other matters that would impact the program beyond 2026. Any staffing decisions Whittingham made would need to be approved by the athletic director. I'm quite sure as soon as Kyle read that, he was on the phone with his agent. It's like, hey, let's see if a job comes open. An athletic department senior administrator chosen by the department would be housed full-time within the football facility. Again, I'm sure Kyle saw that and said, absolutely not. And then the Sharon Moore stuff happens. I mean, this is like a 30 for 30 in the making. Sharon Moore loses his job in spectacular fashion. And by December 12th, Coach Witt walked away from the program to take the Michigan job. So Witt's previous contract included a retirement position that would pay him $3.45 million annually for a 2-year term as a special assistant. But again, the amendment, which was signed on December 12th, which is the day Witt announced he would step down, gave Kyle a $13.5 million, what's called a, quote, transition bonus to be paid in 3 installments. So what we know now is on January 8th, he received the first payment of $8 million. The next payments would occur on January 8th, 2027, and then January 8th, 2028, where he's going to receive $4 million and $1.5 million, respectively. And then I misspoke. It was December 26th when Kyle agreed to the Michigan job, eventually bringing along 7 Utah assistants. And in the days after, what we know now, there was a dispute between Whittingham and the U over his actions and the millions of dollars he was owed. So in Witt's new contract, he agreed to help the university with what's called, a smooth and successful transition for Scally and the football program. And on January 23rd, the U did pay Kyle the first installment of the $8 million he was owed, plus $13,000 in interest for temporary withholding the money during a dispute over his exit. Leading us to this, and then we'll catch a break. This is probably the piece that's getting the most attention. This is an email that was written from Mark Harlan to Kyle Whittingham, and it said the following, quote, "As you know, the university was disappointed by your actions last month. The university felt that your involvement with recruiting our football coaches and staff to Michigan was contrary to the terms of your employment agreement, which requires you to assist with a smooth and successful transition of the football program to the new head coach and his coaching staff." Continued. "Your position was that this provision only prohibited non-disparagement. We have determined that a fight over this issue would not be in the long-term interest of the university and its football program or your legacy as our longtime football coach. We have decided to look to the future, and we hope and expect that you do the same." We'll end with this. This is another statement that Coach Witt's agent sent to the Trib. Quote, "At all times, Coach Whittingham acted professionally and in a manner consistent with both the terms and the spirit of the agreement. That agreement did not prohibit Coach Whittingham from pursuing future coaching opportunities or engaging with coaches and staff beyond the specific and limited restrictions that were expressly included. The Whittingham family cherishes his 32 seasons leading the University of Utah and will forever have a deep appreciation for the student athletes and the Utah community. They are grateful for the loyalty and passion of the fans, which have been a constant throughout their time. The relationships they built and the experiences they share will always be meaningful to them." I'll reiterate what I said earlier. I just have a ton of experience seeing things like this in professional sports, powerful people negotiating and oftentimes not being able to come to an agreement, which leads to unceremonious exits and battles and lawsuits back and forth. This isn't that rare. I know it feels like it is. The information is new for a lot of people. I don't feel like it's new for people that know. I was sitting at a dinner table when Pat Riley faxed his resignation to the House, leaving the Knicks for the Miami Heat. Years of lawsuits and litigation, which ultimately went the Knicks' way. And I could give you a ton of examples. I don't feel like this is all that rare, but it does kind of corroborate everything we've talked about. And you can use whatever adjective you'd like, icy, straight up anger, whatever it is. It's clear that this was not a seamless transition. And it's clear that there are probably some hard feelings. And I can promise you, as I've said before, I'll say it again, prepare for Kyle Whittingham to do everything he can to prove to the people up on the Hill that thought it was time to go, that they made the wrong call, and it's going to be fascinating to watch Michigan football under Witt. You got anything you want to add before we break?
Only thing I'll add, because you covered it pretty extensively there. Good job.
Thank you.
Is you mentioned how I alluded to maybe the Kansas State game. I felt like he changed his mind. The only reason I say that, that was not something Kyle told me. That was not something anyone there told me. That was me being there with Kyle for a decade now after football games and just observing him, observing his operations. Folks who were at that game saw the entire Whittingham party taking pictures, doing the thing. They were all there. It was a farewell until it wasn't. And why I say that is because I literally sat there. I wanted to kind of take it in with Kyle because I felt it was his last time in that stadium as the head coach. And Spence, he couldn't leave. He usually, the second he gets done with his ESPN 700 post-game interview, he walks out of the stadium. He goes and he gets his stuff ready. He maybe has a quick meal and he leaves. And at that moment, he wouldn't. It felt like a time where, in a normal circumstance, he would have gone off and done something with his family. And Kyle just kind of took it in. And I could tell I could tell in his eyes, I could tell in his voice that there was something going on. There was some sort of conflict. And it just felt like in that moment, it went from a farewell to a, what's next, right? And that was nothing he told me. That was just knowing the guy for a decade now and kind of seeing it on his face and seeing it in his eyes. And it turned into, of course, something a lot bigger than that over the next couple of weeks.
And remember when he cried post-game?
Yeah.
And said, I always point this out. The line that got him was, so he was talking about his seniors, and he was composed, he was stoic, he was Kyle. When he said their last chance at Rice-Eccles, the emotion hit him.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
And then he said, hey, I always cry when I'm talking about my seniors. I'm like, no, you don't. I've never heard you cry when talking about anyone for 20 years. Anyway, we'll get back to this. We're going to do some NBA with Howard Beck. Don't forget Morgan Scalley at 3:30. Gordy Chase live in studio. Busy Friday show. It's great to have you with us right here on ESPN 700. Well, it's not the end of the world as we know it. Might feel that way sometime. Reminder, coming up at 3:30, Utah head coach Morgan Scalley I'm walking over to the CBS affiliate, KUTV. We will be on CBS in a break during March Madness. So if you're watching the games, don't change the channel. But we will do some NBA today. I've misbehaved with the clock, so we are late to bring in our guy, Howard Beck. Happy Friday, Howard. How are you, sir?
Doing all right, Spence. How are you?
I'm well. So has the recent run of play from the Lakers changed anything with you? I mean, Luka with a cool 60, and they are 9-1 in their last 10. Everyone believes it's OKC in San Antonio. But look, when you got Luka and LeBron, I guess you never say never. Have you changed your calculus on what they can be in the postseason?
I think they've got our attention, right? They've got the whole league's attention right now. I think they've even won 11 out of 12, and they've been, since the All-Star break, one of the better teams. Defense, which was so bad that earlier in the season it looked like J.J. Redick might just implode or resign on the spot. He was like losing it every week about the defense. Their defense has actually been, I think, somewhere middle of the pack since the All-Star break, and I think like 8th or 9th in the league for the last like dozen games. So like, and then there's been a lot of good teams in that stretch, right? They beat the Knicks, they beat Minnesota, they beat the Rockets now twice this week. They beat Miami last night. Like they're getting quality wins against quality opponents, and the defense is, miles beyond what it had been earlier in the season. And maybe it was just a matter of time for their big three to kind of like click, because if you recall, we started the season with LeBron on the shelf for several weeks, and then he comes back and Austin Reeves is out. And so maybe it was just a matter of how much time they needed with those three guys together, Reeves, Luka, LeBron. Maybe it's a little bit of the role players. Maybe it's them tightening up the defense. Maybe it's a little bit of everything. But we always say in this league, you want to peak at the right time, and they are. Whether that's enough to crack that top tier, they're solidly third right now. Do I think they're as good as San Antonio and Oklahoma? No. But to your point, like in a series, you just want to have the best player on the floor. And can Luka go, shot for shot with Shea or Wemby or Castle or whoever? Like, yeah. And he's got some support. So I think they've made it a conversation now. What happens in the playoffs may be a different story, but they are firmly in the conversation and deserve to be considered.
Milwaukee was in town last night, and the Salt Lake City Stars actually beat. Oh no, it was the Jazz. For some reason, the Jazz decided to play hard and win. But I wanted to ask you what your understanding is with the story of Giannis did not play, but there's this conversation that they want to shut him down, and he wants to play. And by the way, I love that he wants to play. This can't end well. And how real are these reports that they want him out and he wants in?
Someone told me the day before the trade deadline, when there was still talk of maybe he'll get traded by the time the deadline hits, someone told me, listen, they really need to trade him. And if they don't trade him, the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to get to some point in the back half here, because he was hurt even at that time. We're going to get to some point where they're not going to want him to play, and he's going to want to play, and that's going to be the next conflict. And they were right. Here we are. It is. I could argue it is in everybody's best interest, the Bucks as an organization and Giannis's, to not have him play again. They're done. Their season's over. They're not catching anybody for the number 10 spot in the East. They're not making the play-in. They're toast. And there's no point in playing at this point. And I say that even, acknowledging the irony of like, oh, we want everybody to play. We want teams to try. We don't want tanking, blah, blah, blah. But like, there's a practicality here. Like, he's been banged up all season and there's nothing to gain. And why rush back? Why play it all in these last dozen or so games? But like you, I can't help but respect that he wants to play and compete and all that. But they do have a draft pick at stake here, where it's this strange swap, right? Where it's the Hawks get the better pick between Milwaukee and New Orleans, and as of right now, New Orleans probably has the better pick, so Milwaukee will just keep their pick. But the lottery could change that, and so if you're the Bucks, you are now incentivized, unfortunately, just as the Jazz and several other teams are incentivized, to lose and to get your odds as high as possible. And so for the Bucks, having Giannis play is not in their best interest for the draft pick purposes, maybe not in his best interest for health purposes. But if he wants to play and they don't want him to, that's a problem. And if they keep him from playing and it's over his objections, that could result in a grievance through the union and who knows what else.
What conversations have you had, or what insight do you have? There was a report, and it's escaping me now. I'll look it up so I give the person credit. Might have been Windhorst who said on ESPN he talked to an owner that said he'd pay $100 million for the first pick in the draft this year. And you're always very good to, and I always have respected this about you. I know you're not scouting these prospects. I'm not going to ask you to break down A.J. Debonsa versus Darren Peterson. But the value that seems to be believed to be included in the top of this draft, what are some of the conversations or information you have on that? Because there are a ton of teams trying to get involved, of course.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't have that many years where you've got multiple players who everybody consensus opinion is could change the trajectory of your franchise, could be the foundational piece of your franchise, and someone who leads you to, multiple playoffs for the next 10, 15 or so years. Like you're in a given year, maybe there's one or two guys. It's rare that it's like three or four, or maybe even more. Like it feels like every week we go by, the draft experts are flagging another guy who they think is actually going to be really special. Now, we know how this goes in reality. Odds are a few of these guys might actually be stars. A few will just become solid, role guys or third, fourth starter types, and there's going to be some busts. Like that's just the odds. That's the history of the draft. So putting a price tag on it, as the owner told Windhorst, I mean, is really interesting because that goes to like the economics of it all, right? If you get that special kind of player, if you get, a Victor Wembanyama or LeBron James, like not just a great player, but a generational talent, what they're worth to your franchise over the course of a career, all the playoff games, all the sales and popularity, and what they do to kind of like lift the entire franchise's value. Yeah, it would be worth it if you could just spend the $100 million. I don't know if that's an accurate, number. That's way too big for me to even contemplate, but that makes sense to me.
Let me go back to the Giannis thing, and the angle to me is just this: it's the Knicks, because as we've discussed, they're good and they're playing better as of late. And Cade's injury is going to affect what happens in the Eastern Conference. I'm not saying they don't have a chance. I just feel like Boston, since Tatum has looked the way he's looked, which has been kind of surprising, I'm kind of ready to say I feel like it's their conference to lose. And most of the things I've heard, Howard, like if they move Giannis to, New York would be interested in doing that. Any intel there?
Yeah, I mean, I have no doubt that there will be interest. I also have no doubt that Giannis is going to get traded this summer. Like, I just think that that's a certainty at this point. But when you get to that point, then it's a matter of like, who has what Milwaukee wants. Now, Giannis can try to steer this thing and say, I want to only go to this city or these two or three cities, blah, blah, blah. But the Bucks are going to try to get the best possible return package, whatever that may mean. And we don't know what that is yet for them. That has not been defined. But you can pretty well guess it's going to be, young, high-level talent and or draft picks. And the Knicks don't have much in the way of draft capital. So it doesn't mean it won't happen, but would the Bucks make a deal for Towns and Bridges and then just try to flip those guys for the draft capital that they're really looking for? I don't know. And I think a lot just depends on how the Knicks do in this postseason. Like, if they make a deep run, the temptation will be to keep it together. And I know that there are some people internally there that really want to stick to the patient route of like, look, this is only year 2 with Towns and Bridges. Like, let's just keep slow rolling this thing. Like, we're in good shape. But there's only one opinion there that matters, and that's the owner. And he went on radio a couple months ago to say that it's championship or bust. So we'll see.
I know he did, but you know what? We don't have to discuss any of that today. What I said about Boston and Tatum, are you kind of on the same page? Does it feel like they might be separating themselves with the Cade injury?
Yeah, I mean, the Pistons deserve all the credit in the world, and I think I even maybe said to you a week ago, like, they deserve to be the favorites based on their record alone. Like, that has to earn you something in the public view, and they've been there consistently, and yeah, they've got their warts, but everybody does. But now with Cade out and probably for the rest of the regular season and not clear when he'll get back, and, hopefully it's by the playoffs, there's at least a chance that the Celtics catch them for the number 1 seed. I don't think the seeding is the most important thing in all of this, especially where it regards the Celtics. They've won it all before. They don't need the seeding. But there's a chance of the Pistons losing their footing there. If Cade is not 100% by the playoffs, there's a chance of them being upset in the first round. The worst-case scenario here is basically the Pistons go from being number 1 most of the season to not even making out of the first round. That's on the table. They don't have a lot of shot creation and scoring outside of Cade Cunningham. And the Celtics, to your point, have looked fantastic, all along here. But, yeah, Tatum, you can't say like he hasn't missed a beat. There's definitely a little bit of explosiveness that's not there yet. His lift is not there. But, man, he's doing everything at a super high level still. The shot making is there, and the playmaking, the passing, the defense even is there. And it's just a remarkable comeback and one of the best stories in the league this year.
Anytime you hear, hey, he broke Wilt's record, it was probably a pretty big-time achievement. 127 consecutive 20-point games. Put some context around that, Howard. Just how impressive is what SGA just did?
It's an interesting record because, like a lot of streak-type records, longevity-type records, games played-type records, you don't think about them until it happens. If I had asked you, a year ago, hey, who do you think has the record for most consecutive 20-point games? We'd probably both guess Wilt anyway, because that's just the kind of record he'd have. But we wouldn't know for sure, and we wouldn't know how long it was, and we wouldn't know how many people have ever come close to or put together streaks that were substantial enough to even talk about. So it's almost like one of those invisible records, right? Until it happens during your time. And then you look up one day and you go, oh, he hasn't been below 20 points in X number of games. And it's like the consistency is remarkable because all it takes is one bad shooting night or turning your ankle in the first quarter or whatever it may be. And, when you consider the guys that you and I have seen over the last several decades, including LeBron, including Kobe, including any number of high-level scorers, Michael himself, that Shea has now accomplished something that none of them have, that nobody since Wilt has. Just that context alone puts it in. I think that defines it. And scoring is a lot easier to come by in today's NBA than it was 30 years ago, right? The pace is higher, the 3-point shot. All the stats are inflated a little bit, but being able to put up 20 every single night when we've always considered 20 to be kind of like the bar for what's a good night of scoring in the NBA, it is phenomenal.
So while we're in the SGA space, Oklahoma City is now more or less fully healthy. And it just, what is it? 14-1 in their last 15. And, wins over the Celtics, the Nuggets, the Knicks, the Warriors, Nuggets couple times. The Cavs, they're not just beating up. They won in Los Angeles against the Lakers. They're not just beating up on the third of the league that's unserious. They're beating the best teams in the NBA again, and oftentimes it doesn't feel like it's close. The gap between OKC and whoever, San Antonio, the field, what does it feel like right now?
There's a gap, but I don't think it's overwhelming. They're just incredibly consistent, and they're incredibly deep. And by deep, I don't mean like they have 7 all-stars, but, they've got their 3 and, they've been missing J-Dub for most of the season. And Chet Holmgren is not your classic, scorer who you're going to play through, but they've just got so many really useful players, right? Cason Wallace and Isaiah Joe and AJ Mitchell. And they just keep plugging and playing guys, and they all play hard. They all play D. And most of them can make shots. And so the depth is what makes you an incredible regular season team. It can also help in the playoffs, but in the playoffs, it sometimes comes down to more of like your best 3 versus their best 3 or your best 5 versus their best 5. Like it starts to become matchup driven. And I do think that what San Antonio showed earlier in the season in smacking the Thunder around a bit multiple times, I think that matters still. So I'm not prepared to say like the Thunder are just running laps around teams. I'm still waiting to see what happens, when the Nuggets get fully healthy. I think Peyton Watson's supposed to be back soon. I'm not crossing them out of this conversation. The Lakers, as we discussed earlier, have, made themselves, a presence here. And Minnesota, hard team to figure out. But I do think while the Thunder are still the deserving favorites in the West, I think the Spurs are a real threat, and I think all the other teams are the next tier behind them.
Before I say you lose, Howard, I was raised by a man whose mentor was David Stern, so I'm a grown-up, and I understand that pro basketball is a business, and the people running pro basketball take the business side of it very seriously, and I understand what money means in the United States. I get it, okay? Expansion right now, when a third of the games every night are unwatchable. Look, like I said, okay, get it. Money's going to be made, fine. But for the product of basketball, what does expanding to two different markets mean?
I have been a skeptic, to say the least, about expansion for this entire stretch, whatever this stretch is, however long we've been talking about it. I think it's a terrible idea. And I wrote a 3,000-word piece about this a year ago, which we republished on The Ringer this past week with the news that it seems like there's momentum towards Seattle and Vegas. Look, I get it. Like, they're going to, charge $7 to $10 billion per franchise, and they're all going to divide it amongst themselves, and they're all going to, toast themselves with the most expensive champagne in the world after they do it, and they'll all love it. And they'll have to divide the pie 32 ways instead of 30, but there's plenty of money up front to make it worth their while. Cool. Awesome. Great. You'll be in 2 more markets, including Seattle, where you never should have left. Cool. Awesome. Great. Is it good for basketball? I don't even know where that ranks on the list of questions that they ask as they go through this process, but I don't think it's high enough. Because to your point, and the point that I've been making for a long time, there's not enough talent to go around. There's not even enough talent to support 30 teams right now. There's a lot of C-level talent. There's a lot of competent players. There's more competency than there's ever been. But this idea that because of international play and everything else, we've got this surplus of stars, we just don't. We don't. Go down the list. Take the Ringer 100 list. Take ESPN's rankings. Whoever's you want. Identify how many guys you think you could truly build a franchise around, and see that number is probably 7 to 10 guys. And that's pretty consistent year after year. And then there's another 15 to 20 after that who are really good players who maybe you could build a team around, but might also just be better off as second fiddles. And then there's a huge drop-off, or not a huge drop-off, but there is a drop-off. And you just don't have enough guys who can anchor a team. And so you get what we have right now. In any given year, there's going to be a third of the league that's just, unwatchable. And tanking is only part of that. There's just not enough talent to go around. And by adding 2 more teams, you're by definition adding 2 bad teams. These are not going to be good teams. Expansion teams are never good. So instead of 9 to 10 bad teams, you're going to have a dozen. How is that good for the league? How is that good for basketball? And then the teams at the top, the contenders or the high-level playoff teams, everybody's losing somebody. I mean, the expansion draft doesn't mean everybody loses a player, but you're going to lose players. So depth is going to be harder to come by because the guy who used to be somebody else's 7th man is now a starter on an expansion team. So there's a trickle effect throughout the league. It makes everybody a little bit weaker. And in a time when we keep talking about how important depth is, good luck finding the depth. Also, by the way, not for nothing, and this always gets overlooked, last time the league expanded by 2 teams was in an era when rosters were 12 deep.
Yep.
Rosters are now basically 18, counting the two-way guys.
Yep. Well said, Howard. Great stuff as always, my friend. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll chat soon, okay?
You too, Spence. Take care.
Howard Beck from The Ringer. I want to let you know that the Utah Royals are taking on the San Diego Wave at America First Field this Sunday, March the 22nd. Text SWARM right now to 33986 for a chance to win tickets. We'll catch a break. Keep in mind, Morgan Scally at 3:30 today. Keep it here on ESPN 700. because it is every year. Our friend Josh Grant joins the program. Josh, most important thing, how's your bracket doing so far?
Well, this year I was smart enough to get a couple of them. So that way, if you miss on one, maybe you make it on the other one. Like the McNeese State, I have them in one of my brackets, beating Vandy, and the other one I don't. So who knows? Who knows?
Would you be so kind as to tell us who your Final Four is and who you picked to win the national championship?
You know what? I don't even remember who my Final Four is. I think Arizona's. They're just too consistently good this year. And so I have them winning, I believe, against maybe Iowa State. I really liked Iowa State. They played so well defensively. And Houston, too. I just like these teams that you can tell they've been well coached and they just play really good defense. And Iowa State and Houston are two teams that are like that.
Yeah, I agree. I was a little bit Big 12 heavy leaning with my bias. I did pick Arizona to win the championship. We'll see. I think they're a really good deep team. But look, Josh, I said all year and to start the season that I wasn't going to put a whole lot of stock in what we saw from the Utes this year. But I will be honest, I was expecting a little bit more than what we saw. A lot of work to do. But let's just start with your takeaways watching Utah basketball finish 10-22 overall and 2-16 in conference play.
Yeah, I think your assessment is completely fair. I certainly thought we'd have a different kind of look. I thought we'd be a little bit more tough, hard-nosed. And my hope, and I'll, obviously a lot of people want to give Alex a lot of slack, and I'm one of them, because I think he'll get it done. I'm gonna be one of these people that say, if Alex would have left the Mavericks a little bit earlier, maybe the makeup of our team was a little bit different. And in a recent text exchange I've had with him, he was talking about how he's got to do a good job in the portal. And my comment to him was, well, make sure you get a few, not a couple, but a few Alex Jensens. And I really believe that is the secret. If we've learned nothing else this year, between BYU and their multi-million-dollar expenses, looking at Indiana football, looking at Utah State, looking at the University of Utah, it really is about character of player. You can't buy passion. You can't buy people who are going to dive on loose balls. You can't buy that sort of thing, that intangible. And so I think that we got to get back to the basics, and we need some Alex Jensen type players who play with passion, who are proud that they have Utah on their chest, and are also very cool. Alex can coach. There's no question about that. He can coach. You can see that in some of the plays out of timeouts or a halftime or whatever. He can set some things up, but the overall intensity and the defensive rotation, things like that, that's where you got to have these people that just have, they got passion. They want to win, and they're willing to do what it takes to win. And that's my take on the University of Utah. We didn't have that this year. And hopefully that's what they get in the recruiting class this year.
Josh, people people get a little weird when you talk about money, and I get it. It's an odd dynamic, but look, and Witt talked about it like every time there was a microphone in front of Kyle's mouth, he referenced if you don't have NIL, you don't have anything, and now Kyle has all that he can handle at his new job. But look, there are some resources available to indicate which school is spending how much money on which players in the Big 12. I don't fully know how accurate all the reporting is, but the consistent reporting is Utah was near, if not at the bottom, in spending on talent. And, I don't want to run down any of these kids individually. I mean, the old saying was leave the college kids alone. Well, now they're getting paid, which makes them a little bit more fair game to talk about. And I just wanted to, anecdotally share an experience. I went to the Houston game, and I had good seats, not great. I was on the 12th, 15th row. And the only positive about not us being unable to get fans into the Huntsman Centers, you can hear everything Alex is saying to his players. And I'm sitting there watching Alex, listening to what he's saying, and then looking on the floor, and like either they didn't understand it because they weren't reacting to what he was telling them to do. Like, breaking news, Emmanuel Sharp can shoot, okay? Like, let's stop him after the 7th three, please. So that it was a little bit frustrating. So when it comes to the message Alex was trying to convey, because you know his style, you played for Rick, you understand what he's trying to do schematically. Tell me what you saw from the group as far as their ability to execute the game plan.
Well, I think that that goes back to you can buy players, but you can't buy the want to. And so you've got to get players that have character and players that are coachable and players that are willing to work hard and defend. We've always had this issue at the University of Utah. We were never, ever going to out-recruit UCLA or Arizona. We were never going to do that. And we had to adjust. Whittingham adjusted it. I mean, he was to a point when he left Utah where he needed NIL money because he was competing with some top teams. But prior to that stage in his coaching, he had to go get players that were coachable, that had a good basketball IQ, and maybe they were lacking in athleticism or size or something like that, but they made up for it with just sheer toughness or want to. And I think if you look at Utah State, they've had so many coaches in the last number of years, but the team keeps doing well. And if you ask yourself, why is that? It's because all those kids show up to Utah State and they got a little chip on their shoulder. I mean, I have two brothers that had chips on their shoulders. They wanted to prove to the world that, you know what, Utah, BYU didn't recruit me. Well, I'm going to show them. And there's a lot to that, I think. And you look at Indiana football, they sure had a lot of that themselves. They were kind of going at it, and they wanted to prove to the world something. And sometimes when you're buying these players, that specific thing is missing. And for Alex to get on there and say, hey, let's do X, Y, and Z, if they're not following you, either Alex needs to have Rick was the hard guy, Juddy was the soft guy. Well, Alex is kind of the soft guy. Maybe Alex needs to hire a hard guy who's just going to go on there and light some kids up when they don't listen. And if they don't like it, well, you know what? You're not going to do well anyway, so you might as well transfer. And that's the unfortunate situation that we're kind of in today. Either you're going to perform or you're not. And if they don't like you, you're just going to transfer anyway. So let's just take care of it right away.
So maybe we hire a hard guy by the name of Josh Grant to be on Alex's staff.
I wouldn't have any problem yelling at some of these kids. No, just you know what? It's a simple game, and sometimes we want to make it sound like it's so complicated, but oftentimes it's just play hard. If you play hard, you're gonna win a lot of your games because there's a lot of teams that just rely only on their talent, and if things don't go well, they kind of crumble. And so, yeah, it's just play hard and play consistent, and you're going to do well.
Do you have any insight on whether or not Alex is getting the economic support from the school that he needs to go get players?
I think it's there. Even in talking to him, I think it's there. There's some things that they need to figure out, how things get structured. There are some rules to NIL that a lot of people don't understand because it's not the most transparent system in the world. But if you're going to pay somebody more than just a little bit of money, you've basically got to get approval from some NCAA body that somehow legitimizes the fact that it's an NIL contract. That there is you're giving something to get something, and sometimes those are a little bit hard to prove, I guess. And so we've got to come up with some things that make that system a little bit smoother. And I don't know that that's been in place. I mean, let's be honest and let's be blunt. In the old days, what they're doing today was illegal. And so these schools that were doing things that were legal now just have an easier way to do the same things they were doing 15 years ago. And they had everything in place, and they know how to work the system and so on. We've never been like that. We're a little bit behind the curve as far as how we get money for different things going on. That's partly true. I just kind of made some of that stuff up, but it's a new task for us. We've got to figure out how to do it and to do it well.
Wonder what a handsome 6'9" East High All-American grad playing for the University of Utah would take home these days, Josh? I mean, you made a lot of money, right? Like, I wonder if you ever think about that.
Oh, I think about it once in a while, and most of the time I think about it with the fact that any money that I had, my ex-wife got most of it, so I don't really take it too seriously.
Oh, what a line. What a line.
That would make me crazy if I think about it too much.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, we can move on. Let me just ask you, and you can you're a grown-up. You handle this however you want. Don's a senior. He's gone. James is a senior. He's gone. Terrence Brown may have played himself into a situation where somebody's going to throw some money at him. But of the players that were on the team this year, any insight as to who we may see back next year?
I don't. I have Alex and I are going to go to lunch here after he has, I think he's got a coach's retreat this week. After he comes back from that, we'll go to lunch, and I'm sure we'll talk about some of that stuff. And, if he's interested, I'll give him my 2 cents. If he's not interested, we'll just talk about what he wants to talk about. But I think you really got to take a good, hard look at who wants to be here, right? Who is willing to play hard and who's willing to play defense. One thing I'll say about Terrence, when he first got here, his defense was horrible. It was really bad. And by the end of the year, he was playing some pretty good defense for the most part. But the whole team, as a whole, needs to kind of take that same thing and just pick up and realize, okay, you know what, we're 10, 12 individuals that just kind of showed up this year. We've got to play together and we've got to play hard for one another. And that's where I have confidence in Alex. He's going to put together a program where that's the main culture is that they're going to play hard. They're going to play for each other. They're going to play well together. And once that happens, then, you don't have to have guys that can just break people down one-on-one, because you can rely a little bit on your defense and your intelligent play and your hard work and rebounding and things like that to make up for the lack of one-on-one skills or whatever the case may be.
You had referenced earlier some of the traits that once upon a time Utah basketball stood for and what Alex would like it to stand for again. I hate to sound skeptical. Maybe it's the Northeast in me, but in this day and age of just one and done transfer, if you're not getting playing time, I mean, it would be great. The way you articulated it earlier, Josh, is perfect. Give me 5 Alex Jensens. Let's go play. A kid that grew up here, knows what Utah means. Is that possible anymore, to just have these mercenaries in a way roll in here and understand what wearing Utah across your chest really means?
I really believe in my heart that if you were the anti-NIL school, you could do very well in today's basketball. I'm not saying you're going to take first in the conference in the Big 12. You are going to get to the tournament on a very regular basis, and you will put fans in the Huntsman seats. And I really believe that you've got to have at least half, maybe 3/4 of your team that are really just good, solid citizens who love basketball, who maybe got forgotten because they didn't look, sexy enough in their high school years, or maybe they did and they went somewhere else and it didn't work out, and they've matured and they've grown up a little bit and they realize it's not all about them. And if you really focused on a team that had that as a majority of its character, then you could go out and you could get some kids that maybe were a little bit more selfish and could score on anybody, but maybe they lacked in defensive intensity. Well, that's fine, because the rest of your team focuses on defensive intensity and lacked in the offensive scoring part. So between having the anti-NIL folks and then just understanding the different roles, I really believe that has always been the success of Utah. That was the success of Rick Majerus and Jeff Judkins. That was the success of early days for Whittingham. It's kind of been the same role up at Utah State. BYU, to a certain extent, was that way. They tried a new way this year. Sorry, it didn't work. Are you going to go spend more money next year in the NIL than you did this year if you're at BYU? I don't think it was very encouraging that, hey, money is the answer. Let's go get more Richie Saunders, because clearly that guy was the life and, the life of the team and the heart of the team. And so let's take a step back and let's go in the other direction, because I do believe hard work, teamwork, relying on one another, accountability, those kind of things, they never go away. It doesn't matter what the money situation is. Those important traits never go away.
Schematically, Josh, you played for Coach Archibald, then you played for Rick. As you watch, and again, it's tough because I feel like I have a good grasp on what Alex wanted them to do, and sometimes they did, and a lot of times they didn't. But do you see any Rick in the game planning? Do you see any Rick in the defensive planning or offensive attacks?
Defensively, I saw it when we had to scheme to stop a particular person. When we played the first game against BYU, I think that our defensive scheming was good. I think the same thing against Kansas. We had a scheme where we rotated, and they rotated well. The problem is, I think for this team, is that if it's just the basic defensive rotation, that's the part that they didn't get excited about, and that's the part that they did very poorly. So I saw it in spurts. I know Alex knows what's going on, clearly. Now it's just a matter of having players do what the coach wants. And honestly, in today's world, if they don't want to do what the coach wants, they need to go. Mm-hmm. And that's the hardcore facts. I would never say that 10 years ago, but that's the ridiculous state of college sports nowadays. And it really is too bad, but that's what it is. And it has become a professional league in a way. And if you're not going to do what the coach wants, well, then we don't want you here.
Yeah,
so, that's kind of the attitude. Go get kids that want to be here.
Yeah. No, for sure. I want to lean into this for a minute. So just for our listeners that may not be fully aware, Alex Jensen was Mr. Basketball in Utah in 1994. He played for some of the best Utah teams in history, nearly won a national championship, Final Four. We're talking winning WAC championships. He was the MVP of the WAC. He was the Mountain West Conference Player of the Year. He won league championships overseas during his career. He was an all-FIBA player. He has won everywhere he's been as a coach, winning D-League Coach of the Year. He was a high-level assistant for the best Jazz teams we've seen. He went down to Dallas and won. For a guy that only knows winning, how do you digest a season where you're last in your conference? What do you think this is like for him?
In that regard, I feel bad for him. We had a reunion, one of those reunions where they call down players, and I introduced you at halftime, and his wife was down there, and I went and talked to her, and I just asked, how's he doing? And it's got to be really, really tough for him. But you know what? As you're listing all these incredible accomplishments of Alex, if Alex were to come out of high school right now, he wouldn't even get recruited because he didn't look sexy. He didn't jump high. He wasn't incredibly quick. He just knew how to win. And that's why I say in the text message to Alex, go get some of you. And could you imagine if Alex was coaching himself, what he could accomplish there? And I hope that that's what he'll start focusing on, because I'm sure the poor guy had a lot of sleepless nights this year, whether it was out of frustration because guys didn't do what they were trying to get them to do, or he didn't know how to bring it out of them, or whatever, probably things that we don't even think about because we're not in the day-to-day of it all. But yeah, I feel bad for him. He's gonna rebound because that's what he does. But let's hope he kind of maybe takes a different direction, or better yet, let's hope that this year was just a matter of we needed to gather some guys together to play a game or to play a season, and we weren't able to get the type of kids that we wanted that filled specific roles or whatever. We just had to go get them.
Josh, last question, then we'll set you loose. Just generally speaking, success next year looks like what?
For me, I'm simple. I want to see a team that plays defense as a team. And when you look at Houston, I mean, they were playing against Kansas in that Big 12 tournament. I don't know if you saw the game. Mm-hmm. They had a pick and roll on one side of the floor, and their defensive rotation was so good that they picked up the roll guy before he even got into the paint. They were just so good. And then you look at what Iowa State did to us here. They just were so dialed in. And if you see something like that, then you know that we're about to take off, because they're going to win games that many people don't think we should win. And if we're playing that against teams that, that are better than us, the teams that are equal to us, we'll be doing the same thing to them. And so we'll win some games, and it's all because of the team idea, the heart, the defense, the fact that you can tell somebody's been coached, and they've accepted coaching. That to me is what's going to indicate success, because now we're about to take off.
Josh, great stuff as always. Thank you for the time, my friend. Have a great weekend, and we'll get you back soon, okay?
Okay, thanks, Spence. Good to talk to you.
Josh Grant, Utah basketball legend, joining the program today. It is Reality Check time with Spence Checketts, our maiden voyage, episode 1, and we brought in the big dog, Utah head coach Morgan Scalley, live in studio. Thanks so much for being here, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm not the big dog.
You are, man.
No.
Yeah.
I think the reality check is that we're getting old. That's the reality check.
It is. You and I were in college together in Hoke, my Sigma Chi brother. Your brother, Taylor, was a senior, I think, when I was a freshman. And so I was able to get to know the family that way. Just the nicest guy in the world. How's my guy Taylor doing, by the way?
He's doing great. I was hoping you wouldn't bring up any hazing issues. He's a bishop now, so that would not be a good thing. That tracks.
The only thing I'll bring up is there is a video out there of you and I dancing to a Backstreet Boys song during Songfest. I haven't seen it.
I do not remember that at all.
Have you been threatened with it at all? Because I've been threatened with it, like as far as they're going to release it. Have you been threatened with it behind closed doors?
No.
Okay, good.
No, I'm
good.
hoping that everything about that has been destroyed.
I'm with you, but you were a good dancer. Little known fact, Morgan can cut up a rug. You know you can.
Was, okay. Right? Was, past tense.
Well, look, let's get into it. First of all, let's just start with the news that became public today, some public records released where now the public is acutely aware of some of the dynamics behind the scenes that landed Coach Witt in Ann Arbor, and now you're the head coach. You slid over one seat. We're all excited and want to move forward into the Morgan Scalley era. I'm just going to ask you a simple question. I know you and Kyle are close. It's a mentor relationship. It's a friendship. But what was that like for you to traverse as those things were happening behind the scenes?
I would say, what I've always said is that he has been the reason that I'm here.
Sure. Yeah.
From switching to the defensive side of the ball, from the offensive side of the ball. Mm-hmm. And I have nothing but love and respect for him and what he's done for the program, and more importantly, what he's done for me.
For sure.
And all I've tried to do throughout my career is be loyal to him and be true to myself and give everything I have to the program. And so to see him move on is always a difficult thing, because parting when you've got such a love and respect for someone is always hard.
Right.
And I know he's going to do amazing things in Michigan, and I wish him nothing but the best. Yeah,
the nice thing in your seat is you're the coach, so leave all the other stuff to the people whose job that is, right? You don't need to get involved in any of that, really.
I can't.
Right.
If I spend any of my energy on that, then I'm not giving everything I can, or I have, to our players and our team in this university, which is an amazing university.
What about him do you feel like is similar to you, and what about you is uniquely you?
Well, I like to follow different coaches and how they coach. And, Mike Vrabel said something that really hit home with me. He said, you can have different personalities. You have to have different. You're not going to be the same personality-wise, but you have to have the same mentality. And that's what I would say with me and Kyle. We had different likes and dislikes, but we always had the same mentality of what it takes to win. And, I think that's why we hit it off the way we did as a player coach and as a coach, is that it takes what it takes to win in this game, and that is physicality, that is discipline, that is care for the players, and that's how our relationship was.
And look, we were talking a little bit before we started. Disagreements in employment scenarios aren't rare. Like, it happens, whether it's your boss or your coworker, you're just going to have some disagreements. And whatever was similar about you or different about you, synergistically just simply worked. So, who cares if there were times where you didn't agree upon a scheme or a call or whatever? Ultimately, results are all that matters. And you guys, in my estimation, Morgan, you guys achieved results that I think there are some people in our community that never thought were possible for Utah football back in the WAC days or the Mountain West Conference days.
Oh, amen. And I would add to that, in any organization, you don't want yes men, yes women.
Right.
You want people that will challenge and ask the questions and say, can we be doing this differently? Can we be doing it better? That's why I hired the people I did on my staff, is I want people to challenge me on things, and we have to have an open forum to improve and get better, and in my opinion, you need it to get better.
And speaking of your staff, you did a really cool thing for us media schlubs. You let us in the building for a little lunch, and we're able to catch up with you and your staff. And I sat next to a couple of your coaches, including Jordan Gross. And I want to bring on air what Jordan said to me. He said, the great thing about working for Morgan is you want to do a great job for him, but you don't feel like you have to.
Oh.
I mean, that says a lot about you as a leader already,
Well, it's why I pay him.
Yeah. Pay him well, from what I understand.
Jordan is as good as they come. And
Yeah.
When looking for the right fits, you're looking for people that excel at what they do, but also, in this profession, it's a unique profession in that, if you want to be an attorney, you go to law school.
Right.
You want to be a doctor, you go to medical school. Where you want to be a coach, there's really no school for that.
Yeah.
And so much of coaching is teaching.
Yeah.
You have to be a great teacher.
For sure.
And so we get guys on the board, or we get guys in front of our players, and it was, from the outset, it was easy to see what a great teacher Jordan was.
For sure. I also sat next to Jake and Enoch, who I had never met before.
Yeah.
Enoch, excuse me. And I had never met either before. And I had so much fun chatting with them. And I want to ask you a question about Ronnie Mack, about Coach McBride, because, of course, they have ties to him, too. I feel like every coach, whether it's Utah or BYU or Weber or wherever, somebody owes something to Ronnie Mack. What do you owe to Ron McBride? What does he mean to Utah football?
Oh, that'd take 3 hours.
We got
for
some
this
time.
podcast. But Ron McBride gave me my shot.
Yeah.
Don Eck was the position coach that recruited
right.
me. He was in state recruiting Highland High School and sold Ronnie on myself. Coach Mack had a belief in me that I could do things. Funny story, my first practice at the University of Utah, I'm fielding punts, catching punts, and they're teaching you to burst for 10 yards.
Okay. Yeah.
So I catch the ball, I'm bursting for 10 yards, and here comes Coach McBride. And it's one of those awkward situations where you don't know if he's going to move, if you need to move, and I run him right over. I thought that was the end of my college career. I just ran him
that rules.
over.
No way.
But you talk about a guy that really, if I'm going to take one thing from Ron McBride, it is how to recruit, and it's all about connection.
Yeah.
And it's about people.
For sure.
And he would go and he would embrace himself in any culture. He would be comfortable in any room. I'm so grateful for what he taught me about connection. He has stayed in contact with me throughout the years, the good times, the bad times, the dark times. And he was there yesterday sitting in his lawn chair.
Oh, that's so good.
Watching practice.
Oh, that's great.
It was great to have him.
And, he's such a valuable part of the community. When I took this part-time gig over here, I saw him, and he knew about it and gave me a big hug and said, congratulations. We all kind of owe something to Ronnie Mack. I want to share a couple moments with you that I've witnessed to see if they resonated with you the same way. Number one was the Vegas Bowl. And I couldn't make the trip, so I'm watching at home. And there was this really cool moment where you were about to run out of the tunnel. You had taken over. You're the head coach. It's your first game as the head coach. And I noticed you looked up, and you went like this. And you just looked around. And I took that as you realizing what had happened. You realizing that you're the head coach and just taking in your first run out of the tunnel as the leader of those players. Am I misreading that? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I think it was probably because I was experiencing a migraine and I wanted to make sure I was seeing the right things. No, I honestly don't remember. What I do remember about that moment is I wanted the players to hit the field and to be able to see me. I was trying to give everyone 5. What a tough situation that was for the players. Yeah. And I wanted them to know that it was all about them.
Sure.
That this experience, the things they've been through, the amount of focus and the ability to block out distractions during that time was huge, and they did it. And I'm so proud of them.
I wonder because another moment was post-game when all of the news was circulating, all the rumors about Jay Hill and Jason Beck and Witt in Ann Arbor, and you said something that I thought was just so cool. You said, if you don't think we have a plan, you don't know who we are. And I'm like, yep, that's my guy. And over the course of the next 3-4 days, boom, you filled those 6 holes. You had a plan in place. What was it like executing that in a matter of days to make sure you kept going the way you needed to?
crazy hectic.
Yeah, I bet.
I had, because, not knowing that you were going to be the head coach at that time, I had a Disneyland trip planned for my kids.
Yeah.
I think God intervened and gave them the flu.
Oh.
So it was like he was giving me my time to make his hires. But throughout my years, I just paid attention to what made coaches successful, and that was always keeping track of coaches that either gave them fits or coaches that they respected based on what they'd seen, what they've done, keeping those contacts. In any profession, who you know is so important. And so to be able to network and do all that. So I'd always kept a list of people that I would want to work with, work for, or work for me. And so that's what made the process easier. And anytime people thought that I was going to be the guy, they would just send me names.
Okay.
And the number one name was Kevin McGibbon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. How much, and obviously Kevin is his own man, right? And Jason and Kevin kind of believe in similar concepts.
Right.
You get Devin back, you get Bird back. How much of that hire was kind of like a rose to them? Like, hey, no, it's going to be a system where you can replicate what you did a year ago, even though Kevin has his own wrinkles for sure.
That was a huge priority to me.
Yeah.
Two things that I wanted. I wanted a system much like Jason's where it was easy to install, implement, the queuing back and forth from the sideline. Because with the transfer portal age and kids coming in, they've got to be able to learn your system quickly.
Yeah.
It's not like the old days when I played where it's like, okay, you just make your way out.
Right.
And you learn as you go. But so that the system, the simplicity of the system, but also that matched the skill set of our guys. And with Devin and with Bird and the guys that we were recruiting, those are dynamic dudes.
For sure.
That they're not going to sit well in a system where they're just sitting there in the pocket all day long.
Yeah.
And we wanted to take advantage of that. The good thing about Kevin is he's coached in so many different systems. 2 back sets, 1 back, spread 10 personnel, right? Compact power run game. He'd done it all. And so when we got him up on the board, that's a big thing for me, is when interviewing, to have the guys in the room, just multiple people listening.
Yeah.
Because you catch different things as you're listening to an interview. And to a man, everyone was impressed with not only his ability to articulate his thoughts, but just his overall understanding of scheme and football and what wins games.
So on the other side of the ball, Colton Swan has been elevated to the defensive coordinator. It's his first time doing that. And you, once upon a time, were a first-time defensive coordinator. You had a head coach that knew a thing or two about defense, and you're a head coach that knows a thing or two about defense. How much of this is Colton, you go fly? How much of this is I'm right by your side?
He has done this before. Not
at this level, I guess.
But at Weber he did.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's unbelievable.
Had him on the show. It was awesome.
He's tough as nails. He's organized. He understands connection and what drives a football player. He's fully on board with our mindset of what it takes to win defensively. And he's coached in this system. I mean, under Ron McBride with Jay Hill, and he loves this system, loves what we do. He's going to have his wrinkles, and I want that for him. He needs to know that this is his deal. Yeah. And so I'm there as a sounding board, much like Kyle was a sounding board for me. And he'll ask me my opinion on things. But ultimately, I'm so excited for his time now.
Yeah. Another member of this defensive club is coaching Brigham Young right now. Is coaching BYU right now, and they got you 3 straight times, my guy. So as you enter this year as your first opportunity to coach Utah as the head coach against them with Kalani on the other side, what do you anticipate that feeling like?
Well, we're very good friends.
Yeah.
And Kalani and I did a fireside the other night, and we had the young men in a picture, and they were all flashing you. You had one kid that was flashing the BYU sign, and they were all giving him some crap.
Yeah.
I said, guys, he's being loyal to his team.
Yeah.
What do you expect?
Yeah.
And I FaceTimed Kalani, and I got him on the phone.
Oh, that's awesome.
With the kid.
Nice.
But we just have such a great relationship, and this is honestly, and I said it at the basketball game when we introduced our staff. This is the greatest rivalry, in my opinion, in sports.
Yeah.
And so I'm so grateful for Kalani's vision, for his feeling about the rivalry. We want to be respectful, but just like brothers, I want to beat him by 50.
Yep.
And that's just how it is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be toxic. It doesn't need to be sometimes what it's been.
Yeah, well said. I have a theory. Utah football coaches use the word elated per capita 10 times more than the rest of the human race. I've heard you use it, Whit, all the time. I had Casey Evans in studio, the new head coach of Olympus, and I asked him, hey, how you feeling about the opportunity? He said, I'm elated for the opportunity. Is there an origin story behind the word elated?
I think we use awesome and amazing. You're just trying to give different words.
Okay. Nothing there. Your introductory press conference, I texted you after. I'm like, dude, you knocked that out of the park. And it was very, very you. But I want to read you my favorite part because I was back at the studio. I think you purposely did it during the afternoon so I couldn't be there. But the moment that I wanted to stand out of my chair is when you said, change can be difficult for a lot of people. People leave an organization and there's doubt. There's fears, there's questions. Fear has a significant psychological impact on the mind. To the fearful, it's threatening because it means that things may get worse. For the hopeful, it's encouraging because things may get better. And then you landed the plane by saying, and to the confident, it's inspiring because the challenge exists to make it better. I'm confident and excited for the future. And I was like, mic drop right there.
I can't own that. That's a quote.
It was so good, though.
Yeah. But it spoke to me. It spoke to me back when I first heard it.
Yeah.
And it was like, that is so true.
Yeah.
And if you don't have control, right? If you don't have power over that switch and over things, you panic.
Yeah.
Change is really difficult if
Yeah.
you can't see where the journey's headed, and if you don't have confidence that it can improve, that it can get better.
Yeah.
And that's why I've been in this program so long and have learned so much from great people, great coaches, and I truly believe that we can win and win big.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know it's a quote, but you just delivered it, and I feel like it was this moment of like, oh, we're in good hands, man. He's got this.
I appreciate that.
So us media schlubs all the time, we're looking at next year, and we say, okay, what does success look like for Morgan and Utah football year one? I won't define it. You tell me, next year, what does success look like as your first year as the head coach?
Living the culture.
Okay.
Relentless, smart, nasty ball hawks. And there are skill sets and mindsets defined in that. Culture's what you believe, it's how you behave, and it's the experience delivered by that behavior. Well, within that, you've got to teach your players what is elite behavior.
Yeah.
At every level,
Yep.
at every position, what is elite behavior? And so that's what we're after, is everyone living the culture from top down. And we had a leadership vote recently that will be announced today. But the thing that I get a lot of my leadership stuff from a guy by the name of Tim Kite. Tim worked with Urban at Ohio State, and he's since passed away. Rest in peace. But he said, leadership is not authority based on a position you have been given. Right? And I think a lot of people think that, oh, you were voted captain, you're a leader. That's not, no. Titles don't make leaders.
Right.
It's influence based on trust you've earned.
Yeah.
And so guys understanding, if you want to have that influence, you've got to go earn their trust, and there's specific ways to do that.
Yeah.
But I'm so excited because you sit back as a coach and you say, do we think that they're going to vote the right guys?
Yeah.
And these are the right guys.
Good. Some fun news recently. You and your wife, Liz, have pledged a $2 million gift to the Utah Athletic Department. What was the motivating factor behind that generous gift?
Our love of the university. Yeah. She went to the U. Her family all went to the U. I grew up going to Rice Stadium. Was Rice Stadium, then turned Rice Eccles. Wearing my Highland High number 33 jersey to get in for free on Little League night, underneath the tunnels, looking at Scott Mitchell, looking at and just the education that I got there, getting my undergraduate, getting my master's in business. this has been our life. I've been at the University of Utah. In fact, been at that facility more than I was at my house on 2301 Berkeley growing up.
Yeah.
And so Liz, who is my everything, we got together and decided this is something that we wanted to do.
I want to follow up on that because my mom used to say if I went to a team dinner, she would say, find your coach's wife and give her a hug and say thank you. And I watched my father as a high-power sports executive for 30 years and my mom by his side when he had to travel, when he had to be at work, late hours. What does your wife mean to you?
Everything. Yeah. And you ever seen As Good as It Gets?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Is it Jack
Nicholson? Yeah.
And he's sitting there and he says, I watch people. I watch them as you bring them their coffee, as you walk by them, take their orders.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't realize that they just met the greatest woman in the world.
Yeah.
And the fact that I get that makes me feel good about me. This is Liz.
I love that.
This is my wife.
That's great.
And the thing is, I've not always been able to give her my everything because of the sacrifice of football.
Yep.
And she's just been, man, do you need to marry someone that makes you want to be better, that allows for forgiveness and growth and allows you grace, and she has done that, and I'm very blessed.
I love it, man. So well said. Look, I know you got to run. You got spring ball. Cannot thank you enough. This has been awesome. It's always great catching up with you. Anything I can do for you, we're your partner over at the radio station. I'm here for you, bro. So I'm pumped for this opportunity. Thanks so much for the time today, okay?
I'm happy for you, brother.
Appreciate
Congratulations
it. Thank
on
you.
this.
No, I'm
happy
excited.
to be the first guest.
Oh, yeah.
Guarantee I'm not going to be the best.
No,
so.
if you want to come back every week, we'll make space for you. You get out of here, okay?
Thanks, brother.
Utah football coach Morgan Scally. We're going to catch a little break coming up on the other side. We'll wrap it up. We'll tell you what we have in store for the next few episodes. It's the Reality Check podcast with Spence Checketts right here. Keep it here on KUTV and ESPN 700. I hope is we can get guests the magnitude of Morgan Scally. We like to say we are the state of sport. And I've been in media for 20 years now, and I've cultivated a lot of relationships with who I perceive to be very successful, high-powered, people of great integrity that make us the state of sport, that kind of permeate throughout the culture of exactly who we are. So subscribe to Reality Check with Spence Checketts, wherever you get your pods. Special thanks to Morgan Scally, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for being along for the ride.
Welcome back in, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. While Spence makes his way back to the radio studio, just his day job, little update for you on the NCAA tournament scoreboard, as well as a little Uinta Golf PGA Tour leaderboard update. On the hoop side, what a day of college basketball already in the books. Several games. Kentucky, the 89-84 win over Santa Clara. Texas Tech, 91-71, the win over Akron. Another 20-point win. This one, Alabama over Hofstra in Tampa Bay. Virginia, number 3 seed, takes on Wright State. They get the win 82-73. Iowa State, a team, if you're looking at the two line, maybe the strongest outing from any one of those teams, the 108-74 win over Tennessee State. A really good showing for the Big 12 Cyclones. Number 1 seed Arizona, they get a 92-58 win over Long Island to move on to the round of 32. In progress right now, Tennessee, they're up big over Miami of Ohio. Of course, Miami of Ohio, 32-1 over the course of the regular season. But Tennessee having no problem with them at the moment, 12 minutes to go, and the Volunteers lead 60-36. Now, a little local flair for you. How about Utah State? The number 9 Aggies tied right now with Villanova. It's 65-65. Mason Falslev with 18 points currently to lead the Utah State Aggies. Collins with 11 points as well, the only two in double figures, while Villanova is starting 5. Bryce Lindsey with 21, Tyler Perkins with 12, Malachi Palmer with 11, Duke Brennan with 13. A good showing from the starting 5 from Villanova, while Utah State looks to get the upset there. Of course, a 9-8 matchup, so not that big of an upset, and probably not an upset if you ask a bunch of people here in the Beehive State. We'll keep you posted on that one and more in the next hour. Spence is live here with Gordy Chiesa. But now, over to the golf side. David Lipsky is currently leading in round 2 at the Innisbrook Resort and Golf Club. It's the Valspar Championship on the PGA Tour. He is 8 under. And Sung Jae Im just tied him up with a birdie. He is through 16 with 8 under as well. Chandler Blanchett, 7 under. Doug Gim, 7 under. And then a bunch of folks at 5 under. Marco Pang, Jordan Smith, Matt Fitzpatrick, Alex Smalley, Brant Snedeker, Tom Kim, all there to round out the top 5 on the PGA Tour leaderboard update. As I mentioned, Spence Checketts will be back here in the radio studio for the 4 o'clock hour with our favorite hoops guest, a savant, if you will, in the basketball department, a guy who's been in the Final Four and the NBA Finals, one of about a half dozen humans on the planet that can say that on the coaching side. He is one Gordy Chiesa. He joins Spence on the other side. The PGA Tour and NCAA tournament update brought to you by Uinta Golf. Swing into Uinta Golf by Worldwide Golf Shops for Titleist's limited time loyalty promotion. When you special order any 3 dozen of the Titleist golf balls, you'll get another dozen for free. That's Uinta Golf and uintagolf.com. Back on the other side with more of The Drive on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
I'm back in the safe place, the nest, the trust tree, radio studios. TV studios carry a different level of pressure. I am still sweating from my interview with Morgan Scally. If you missed that, we'll put it up on the website. Again, a special thank you to Morgan Scally for taking time out of his day during spring ball to come give us about 25, 30 minutes. A lot of fun. And a special thank you to our next guest who does not need his scarf today because it is warm outside, the legend Gordy Chiesa. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Spence. Thank you. And Spence alluding to about 2 weeks ago, it was cold here in Salt Lake City. I wore my East Coast scarf, and suddenly all these people, and the funness of it, was criticizing my scarf, Spence.
No one should be criticizing the scarf. Nobody should be criticizing your fit, as the kids say, Gordy. You got the Riz. Do you know what that is?
I heard about it.
Charisma.
Oh, okay. I heard about it, yes.
Yeah.
Porter has informed me. Porter's my go-to person, helped me as far as with the latest jargon.
Yeah, he keeps us young. Did you say it was his drip that you liked? Is that what it was?
Yeah, someone on the YouTube stream also commented that Gordy was dripping, and that he was.
That means you got style, Coach.
Sometimes I've been tripping over the years. But that's a different story. And speaking of tripping and also sweating, Spence, during playoff games in Jazz basketball history, we used to absolutely sweat out when we couldn't make an open jump shot from the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever when Adam Keefe or David Benoit made an open 3-point corner shot, I yell out to the shooting guards, "Hallelujah, take me right now!" Because they made an open jump shot.
Adam Keefe was hitting corner threes, huh?
That's the guards are for you that game.
The rebound thief himself, Adam Keefe. You know, it's funny. Jeff Van Gundy used to tell a story of when Oak would take a jump shot to start the game, and if it went in, Pat Riley would be upset because it meant he was going to keep shooting. Like they wanted Oak to miss his jumper, so he would just rebound and play defense.
Okay, let's add to that. So there's another part. We used to always hope, in a good way, that someone would body up on call early and take him on physically. And then what that would do then, no jump shots. Call would take the ball to the basket and show that he's that no one tries to bully him. And that's what we like. So when Oakley would play against Call, and Oakley, to his credit, was a good defensive player, very similar to Buck Williams, one of the best all time.
Yep.
We used to say, this is good. Buck or Charles Oakley to try to body up on Call, so Call's going to be in that beast mode to start the game versus some of the time take that I can make it fadeaway jumper.
And he started doing that more later in his career, right? Like as a young player, he couldn't shoot a free throw and didn't really have much of a jumper. Probably a testament to how hard he worked that he turned into a good free throw shooter and a good face-up jump shooter, right?
Correct, yeah. So when he was a rookie season, Karl Malone shot from the foul line 49.1%. And then he finished his career of 76.8%.
Mm-hmm.
So he really dramatically improved it. So more importantly, in Jazz fashion right now, that's Walker Kessler. As they go forward, he's an erratic foul shooter. And so he's shooting roughly in like the mid-50s. So he's got to get better at that because you can't go 0 for 2 in a playoff game someday in the fourth quarter consecutively because then it hurts your team. It's a waste of possession.
Walker, you know, it's unfortunate that he lost an entire year of development with the injury. The reports are the Jazz had trade offers for him, and they just said no to all of them. There's also reports that, you know, Walker and his camp think he's worth a little bit more than the Jazz and their camp think. I can't cooperate any of that. Is there any scenario, Gordy, in your mind where the Jazz don't hold on to Walker Kessler next year?
It's unlikely that would ever happen.
Yeah.
Because he's homegrown. There's a phenomenon in the NBA when they draft you and you play relatively well in a part of your career, you're still a young fella, and that you're coachable, that most times you get a second contract because they drafted you. And so that's part of it. And so with Walker Kessler, he's a good player. That's the first thing. He's a good shot blocker, good rebounder, and he had a good last season. And so now he got hurt. He only played 5 games for the Jazz. Again, there's agent talk, and then there's actually what's going to happen. And the agent's job is to position their client to give them the best possibility of making the most money, and we'd like to win also. So that's that gray area. Oh, by the way, we would like to win. Okay, so do we, meaning the coaching staff and management, ownership, and also the fans. what's it going to cost us? And that's that, Spence, that gray area.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we love you at we love you, Spence, at $28 million a year, but at 35, we don't like anymore.
Yeah. No, it's well said. So if we operate off the premise that he's coming back, which I think he is, Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson Jr., that front line is massive. It's big. It's long. How do you think it looks? How do you think it works?
It looks great as far as when you're protecting the paint.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm an alarmist in this sense, close out defense on perimeter. And with that group, you really don't want to switch all time, Spence, 1 through 5, meaning this. I'll say in layman's term. I drill a handoff somebody, and suddenly Walker Kessler is guarding Therese Maxey. You don't want to do that. And so you've got to be able to have enough floor balance defensively that they can guard the dribbler if you do play switch defense. I would recommend it as always. I have no problem switching 1 through 4. 5 gets very interesting, 5.
Yeah.
And the ability to close out to the corner. Again, most times in a 3-point shot in the corner, that means schematically that some big guy most times didn't go out to the corner to defend. I call that he defended his natural habitat, jungle, meaning what? In the lane.
Yeah.
Most big guys don't like to go out to the corner. They like staying what? In the jungle.
Yeah.
Spence, you know jungle, Spence.
Oh, I know the natural habitat. Rudy was pretty good at closing out, right? I mean, oftentimes, look, everyone will post one clip of like Luka beating him or whatever. It's Luka, first of all. Second of all, an entire body of work. It felt like Rudy never got enough credit for just how disruptive he was all over the floor.
Agreed. Let's add to that. Remember those dog days, Spence, and when the Jazz were fighting in the playoffs, they had the first seed, and suddenly everyone's blaming Rudy what he couldn't do in the fourth quarter as far as, 1, making foul shots, and 2, finishing in the lane with jump hook step-throughs.
Yeah.
But it all started when, philosophically and situationally, nobody guarded on perimeter. So Rudy Gobert, suddenly they're blaming Rudy that he's not guarding the whole team. And that the Jazz slipped on defense. I said it's the opposite. It wasn't Rudy's fault. So the time when Terrence Mann had that great
Terrence Mann.
Remember in Jazz lexicon, he had that great game in the playoffs for the Clippers where he scored. I want to say 39 points.
Yeah, it was like almost 40 points.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Okay. So suddenly they blaming Rudy that Rudy couldn't guard him in the corner. Really?
Yeah.
Say what?
Yeah.
It all started when a shot is taken in an NBA game when a guy's wide open. That means about 8 seconds earlier, whoever was guarding the ball, plural, couldn't guard the ball, and that dribbler got in the lane of 2 feet and throw a kick-out pass to the corner or in the shooting slot, and that a defensive wide is compromised. So Rudy never got enough credit, even though, he was 3 times Defensive Player of the Year, one of the all-time greats as far as rim protecting. He's also underrated defensive player as far as attempting to be part of schematically.
Update, Utah State 75-73 over Villanova with 3 minutes left. Turnover Villanova, Utah State run out the other way. We'll keep you up to date. Oh, dunk it. He laid it in. 4-point lead, Utah State, 2:53 left. That was a big-time play. Are you concerned? So your points about Walker Kessler, Jaren Jackson Jr., Lauri Markkanen, well taken. There are some perimeter players currently playing for the Utah Jazz that have shown some competency to get buckets and play well offensively, guarding the ball, right? As we look at the draft, and we've talked to you about some of these prospects, I have to wonder if the front office is leaning into defensive-minded wings who can actually guard the ball, because there's a lot to like about Keontae's improvement. There's not a lot to like about Keontae's lack of focus on defense, and I put Isaiah Collier kind of in the same boat. So Jaren Jackson Jr. brought in, good defensive player. We know that Walker can guard the paint. What about guarding the ball with this team? What do you make of it?
Okay, it has to be one of the highest priorities in Jazz offseason, that they've got to, one, emphasize to the ultimate in drills and accountability, and then they've got to try to attempt to, in the offseason, get some, either through trading or free agency or just internal group to develop as far as playing on-ball defense. And that is absolutely critical. And again, we'll know more about we'll know more about the offseason as far as once the Jazz draft. So I don't like to talk about free agency until I know once the Jazz draft somebody with late June, and then that opens up to free agency. Well, if they drafted so-and-so in the first round, that means that probably not going to try to sign that position. So I'm going to temper that right now as far as waiting on that. But no question about it is that the Jazz need a defensive stopper. So, for example, the Atlanta Hawks, who won 11 games in a row, Dyson Daniels is absolutely a tremendous defensive player. Okay, and Jalen Johnson, who Spence was the 20th pick of the draft. So let's discuss right now, Spence, quickly about when you pick high in the lottery, yes, it's absolutely critical to get guys with innate talent. But doesn't mean that if you don't pick high in the lottery, the other guys can't play.
Right.
See, that's like the myth about everything. So Jalen Johnson from Duke University, go Blue Devils, is that they picked him at number 20, and now he is absolutely one of the best players in the NBA, two-way players. Tariq Maxey, the Sixers here right now, they had a nice win last night in Sacktown. Maxey's hurt right now. He's not going to play. But he was also all-pro player. He's picked number 21 in the draft.
Yeah.
And then we know about Nikolai Jokic. We know about all those guys. And Shea Alexander, number 13 in the draft. So it's not so you pick high in the lottery. It's absolutely critical. But it's not the only way to have elite players.
Of course. I mean, look, the Utah Jazz might be the best example. Mitchell, late lottery. Gobert, late first-round pick. Carl, mid-first-round pick. John, mid-first-round pick.
16.
Millsap, second round. Look, like, the Jazz have built their best teams, for the most part, on value picks that weren't top 5 guys, right? Fair to say?
Yeah, very much. Fair to say. Absolutely. And that's most of the other good teams. So, for example, let's go the Thunder. Those guys are good.
Yeah, they are.
They're good. They're good because of why they play hard innately. And you're saying, what do you mean they play hard? Don't all guys play hard? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Don't all guys play hard? I wish it was that last night's game with the Jazz. Really, they played a tremendous game. However, the Milwaukee Bucks did not want to be there. I was at the game. They did not want to be there. I felt awful for the Bucks, 1 or 2 players that did want to play. So the Thunder, for example, Shea was picked number 13. Jalen Williams was picked number 12. Lou Dort, undrafted. Yes, Chet Holmgren, number 2 in the draft. Cason Wallace, number 10 in the draft. A.J. Mitchell, that guy's very good, 38th in the draft. Caruso, who we all love, was undrafted. When we say undrafted, that means simple, Spence, is that, can you imagine, Spence, a person of your status, not being invited to the party?
Oh, absolutely not.
Can you imagine Porter Lawson not being invited to the party?
Yeah, no chance.
Being what? The draft party.
We're invited to all of them. We should be, at least.
Absolutely. You guys are A-listers. I'm like a C-lister.
No, that's not true.
All right, so these guys, I mentioned undrafted, they're not invited to the draft party, meaning what? Their name wasn't selected that night. And these guys are absolutely critical. And this is why they're good. Hartenstein, off the bench for the Thunder, the 43rd pick of the draft. So again, the emphasis is saying right now is that you can still build a tremendous roster, one, if the pieces fit, and that's that gray area. Hey, I like so-and-so, but not on our team. Or I dislike this guy. Everyone else likes him, but I dislike him. Here's the reason why. And the pieces have to fit. If the world's perfect, Spence, in roster building, is the guy next to you on the court has the same value system as you as a person and as a player, but has a certain different skill set.
Yeah.
So, for example, if a guy's a point guard that's a traditional point guard, pass happy, then a 2 guard has to be what? Jump shot as far as knockdown shooter. The small forward has to be able to what? Go one-on-one, organize without over-dribbling and show element of shooting. If the power forward is inside force, then the 5-man has to be like something like Chet Holmgren, a stretch 5. And then the second unit goes the exact same way. What most teams do wrong, they draft and have the same players on the roster on the court at the same time, and that's why they're all trying to migrate toward the ball, and the pieces don't fit, even though they have talent.
Have the Lakers, so 11-1 for Los Angeles in their last 12. And as we've discussed the Western Conference all year, I mean, Oklahoma City deserves the respect as the defending champs. They're 15-1, I think, in their last 16. They're getting healthy. And when they're healthy and clicking, it's a reminder that everybody is looking up to them, in my opinion. But we've kind of included San Antonio in that conversation. Are you willing to include the Lakers in the conversation that maybe could potentially have something to say about the Western Conference this year?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I know because I don't trust their bench, even though you play less guys in the playoffs.
Sure.
But one injury. The team we don't mention that often, the Denver Nuggets,
Yeah.
they've been hurt the whole season. The whole year, they've been hurt. And so they're able to just hang in there. I like the Thunder and the Spurs, and I do like the Nuggets. So it's going to be interesting how it all plays out. The huge factor right now is can I be a star player, not be in foul trouble, Spence, on the road? And if I do get in foul trouble, can the other secondary scorers make open jump shots so that when I sit for 4.5 minutes during the third quarter, we're not down by 14, we're only down by 2 or up 4?
Yeah. Utah State has closed this game out in very impressive fashion. Now, it's not over yet, but I think they're on a 10-2 run. And the Aggies lead 84-74 over Villanova with 56 seconds left, and they're at the free throw line. So it does look like we will have one local team advance in the tournament. We did not have our local team advance yesterday. We'll take a break and then get Gordy's take on what we saw from BYU in their loss to Texas. But before we catch a break, we have a new client on the show. And I always love when we have clients on the show who I've worked with, because I can give you a personal testimonial and tell you that if you're interested in losing weight or getting back into shape or even getting into better shape, if you feel like you're in good shape right now, you should do what I did because it worked, okay? So a couple of years ago, I set a goal to get into the best shape of my adult life. Started eating well, cleaned up some habits, was exercising daily, and within a couple of months, I was frustrated because I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted to, and I'm a little bit older than I used to be. So I had a friend recommend Game Day Men's Health and said, look, go in there, get a consultation. They'll look at your blood work, and then they'll recommend some things that can kind of help you have more energy for your workout, help you burn fat and gain muscle. So they're giving you the same deal that they gave me, which makes it extremely affordable. The products I've used from them are testosterone and peptides. Those are the two things I use. They've got semaglutide, they've got tirzepatide, they got all the tides if you want to lose the weight. And ultimately, a free consultation is coming your way. Doesn't take long. It's a little bit of blood work. But here's the kicker. 50% off your entire year of membership. Utah Athletics released some records today that went public. We're going to get to that in the 5 o'clock hour, detailing the uncomfortable ending to the Kyle Whittingham era. Gordy, Kyle Whittingham lives in Ann Arbor now. Isn't that a weird sentence?
Very much, yeah. Ann Arbor, absolutely. And he did a great job at Utah for the 20 years. I'm sure, Spence, you go much more in detail about it. From a coaching standpoint, is what you see is what you get. To be an elite coach at this era, you have to have old school fundamentals, but be a new wave communicator. One more time. Old school fundamentals, but a new wave communicator. Because the fundamentals never change. They never change. In football, I'm assuming, Spence, that when you block and tackle with technique, the chances of winning are much higher. And if you as far as have a ball control, your chances of winning. In basketball, if you guard the dribbler and defensive rebound, the chances of winning are much better. All I know is this, in basketball, if the ball moves, the scoreboard moves. If the ball sticks, the scoreboard sticks.
Mm-hmm.
That's 1955, and now it's 2026. It's never changed.
It's true. I like that saying. I feel like I've done so much radio with you, I've heard all the sayings. I haven't heard that one before. I like that one. The ball sticks, the scoreboard sticks. The ball moves, the scoreboard moves.
I've been saying it for really, truly for decades, and with our teams. And that's, again, I'm simplifying it. See, in coaching, what you want to do is talk everyday language with the players, and don't overcomplicate the simple. No, don't. In other words, on pick and roll defense, don't give them 9 different options how to guard it.
Mm-hmm.
Most times, it's not the scheme; it's the effort.
Yeah.
Most times,
yeah,
any sport, it's the effort, and that's what you want to try to do. And Utah State, Spence, you're not talking between breaks here. Utah State Aggies, what they did as far as knocking out the Villanova Wildcats, that's a really tremendous win. Let's not forget last year, unfortunately, but that's last year. It's past tense, where the Aggies got punched in the face by UCLA by 25. 1 year later, now they take down a Big East team. Good for them.
Yep. Thank you for the reminder, Gordy. Let me give you an update. Utah State did handle Villanova. They ended up winning by 10. So they will take on Arizona in the next round, 86-76. Arizona, Gordy, is pretty good. Pretty good team, huh?
Oh, they're very good. They're both good. Both sides of the ball, offense, defense. Their bigs are good. Point guard plays are great. They make shots. They defend. And the Big 12 is an absolutely monster league. And so you're battle-tested when you play against regular league games. Mm-hmm. No different, Spence, in yesteryear in the Big East. In yesteryear, not presently, but old school Big East. One time I was quoted, Spence, in Sports Illustrated, it's easier to win a Big East. Excuse me. It's easier to win to get to the Sweet 16 in March Madness than to win a regular season Big East road game.
Huh. And I don't know that you were wrong back then.
Back then.
Yeah.
On the road, Monday night at Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. Monday night at Georgetown. Yikes. Monday night against the Johnnies. All right? Mm-hmm. These are all unbelievable games. Let's fast forward it. At Kansas, at Texas Tech, at Oklahoma State, at West Virginia. Mm-hmm. Like, these teams are really good at home. And if you're the visiting team, you've got to hope that your team can really be tough mentally, can make enough open shots, and play through contact.
Speaking of Big 12 basketball, A.J. DeBonsa is an unbelievable talent and super fun to watch play. During one of the timeouts, Sean Miller, the Texas head coach, was asked, hey, how do you slow him down? He's like, we can't. I was like, oh, and he wasn't wrong. AJ with 35 points, but he just didn't have enough help. And we need to be fair that this team was banged up with Dawson Baker and Richie Saunders and maybe 4 of their top 8 or 9 preferred rotational pieces. So Kevin was kind of forced to play some players who just weren't ready for that moment. So, AJ, incredible, but BYU season comes to an end, 9th in the Big 12 and a first-round exit. And the expectations were sky high, including my very own expectations. I just thought they would be a lot better. How much of this is injuries? How much of this is a team that underperformed, you think?
Injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say injuries, absolutely. That set him back. As far as injuries to the main guy, Richie Saunders, who's absolutely going to be in the draft, should be picked around, Spence, roughly between 39 and 46 6 in the draft, and he'll make an NBA team. That guy's got some toughness. He's a knockdown shooter, and he's a really good. He's rugged around the basket. He can take a hit. So they missed him dramatically, and also he's a fiery shooter, Spence. Meaning this. He's momentum. He makes 1 or 2 in a row. He starts coming down the court, and he's pumping himself as far as he's yelling out to himself, "Power to the people!" As far as what his jump shot.
Yeah.
And that's an enthusiastic play, and that's what you need. So injuries really said it for the Cougars right now. They finished 23-12. They had a good season. Injuries was a factor of it. See, yesterday's game, I called igloo shooting, Spence, where they were ice cold. They go 4 for 22, which is 18% from threes. So when the ball was moved around or early offense, when the guy was wide open, they couldn't make that shot. And it's so demoralizing to AJ where he does give the ball up and his floor mates can't make an open shot. And it's one of those things where they got exposed as far as their depth, meaning the quality depth of an NCAA type atmosphere that their main guy played. The 2 main guys really had some good moments, good games. The rest of the guys really fell short.
You broke it down well when you joined us earlier. You referenced that the other players, when getting open shots, were just simply going to have to make them, and it didn't happen. You know, that's the ultimate reality. AJ 1 of 7 from 3. I don't want to get nitpicky, but when it comes to people who are analyzing his skill set, that's the thing they point to, right? I think he was like a 29% three-point shooter this year. Donovan Mitchell, his last year at Louisville, I think was about the same, 29 or 30%. You've said before you think he will improve that area of his game, yeah?
Yeah, very much, absolutely. And the reason why, more reps, also more control. In other words, when you're a great leaper, which he is, you're so acrobatic that you can score against mostly anybody. Once you go airborne, the guy guarding you comes down onto earth, and you're still going, what, up to heaven yet, all right, as far as looking at the basket. But in a three-point shot, it's all based on what? Footwork. You see, you've got to have your footwork, so it doesn't matter how you jump. A three-point shot starts with what? With footwork, and it ends there without footwork. So with the coaching staffs, as far as just zeroing in on that and all the game reps, and also suddenly there'll be other players passing to him in space for an open shot versus him always creating for others for open shots. He'll be the recipient of a tremendous guard play by his new floor mates next year. Hope it's Utah, as a matter of fact. Hope it's the Jazz, Lord willing. But if not, just say it's hope it's not Spencer. Hope it's not the Sacramento Kings.
I knew you were going to say that.
I hope. See, Spence can read my mind. I didn't say it out loud. Spence looked at my head and my anguished face, which is often, as a matter of fact, is that Sacramento Kings. I hope you don't go there. Please don't.
No, I'm with you. Like, ownership is such you got to have a guy that is willing to let the basketball people do basketball things. I don't know Vivek Ranadive. I've never met him, but it feels like the decision-making process in Sacramento from the top down for years, Cordy, like since the Weber, Jason Williams, Vlade Divac, Sacramento Kings, and those were good teams. I mean, the Jazz battled against them. It just feels like it's been so long since they have any upward trajectory, and their team this year is so weird. It's just like the weirdest combination of talent. It's odd.
Very much. As I add to that, the Kings have missed the playoffs 18 times in the last 19 seasons. The only time they made the playoffs was 2023 when the coach was Mike Brown. So from 2006 to 2026, coming up right now, that they only made the playoffs now. They missed the playoffs 19 times in the last 20 years. So what business could you stay in profitable if you don't show any sort of revenue, meaning business, as far as wins? That's how crazy Sacramento is. And each guy that goes there says that they're going to turn it around. I know you have great intentions, and you do mean well, but in basketball, very similar to football, you need trusted allies to help you win. You can't do it by yourself. As good as you are, you need allies.
No doubt. Let me ask you about expansion, Gordy, real quick. You have ties to the Seattle Supersonics for our younger listeners who might not remember that. So, look, I'm a grown-up about these things, and I understand that there's money out there to be made by adding additional franchises in cities like Seattle and Las Vegas. I know why that makes sense from a business standpoint. from a talent standpoint, is there a danger of diluting the product on the floor any further? What do you think?
Very much. The answer is absolutely unequivocally yes, especially with big guys. All right, so that the teams in the bottom, they keep drafting these guys that really aren't ready to win, and it takes a long time. By adding 2 more teams, they're just adding. They're putting more players that really aren't ready to be successful. So they're setting back to each franchise, even though the fans will be absolutely ecstatic. The fans in Seattle, I go back to the days when Seattle was known as the Super Sonics.
Yes, sir.
Which was they were a really great franchise. And by the way, Spence, little personal note, I used to live a block and a half from the Space Needle.
Oh, nice.
I used to walk past it every single day and think about the 1962 World's Fair.
Very nice.
I'm sure I'm dating myself right now.
It's all good, though.
I lived literally a block and a half from there. Let's fast forward it. Expansion draft right now and teams. Each owner will get the fees for the fees are estimated between $7 to $10 billion per team. All right, so that for the 2 teams coming in, they have to pay the NBA, which is the other 30 owners, between $7 to $10 billion. That'll be determined as far as the exact number as it goes on. The money will be divided among the league current owners, which is 30, and will not be shared by the players. So the owners get the most, all the money, and I get it. In professional sports, the only risk that it involves is not the players, because those are going to get paid. It's the owners. The owners have the only risk in the NBA or the NFL. The players do not. The risk of the players might get hurt, but if you get hurt, though, you still get paid. The current expansion draft guidelines, each new team will protect 8 players. It's 8 guys. Teams can protect players on expiring contracts or restricted free agents. So, for example, just for the narrative, just to a wordplay, the Jazz could not just say it was this year. Okay, just say it was this year. It's not. But just say it was this year. So Walker Kessler, restricted free agent, could not be on that list. So it's equated that way. Expansion teams can only select 1 player from a team. So just say you protect 8 players. So you give 6 players out there. You can only lose 1 player. So, for example, a long time ago, when the Vancouver Grizzlies came into the NBA, along with the Toronto Raptors, on our player list, meaning the Jazz player list, we give up Blue Edwards. So Vancouver Grizzlies selected Blue Edwards off our list. 1,000 years ago, when the Charlotte Hornets came into the NBA, also with the Miami Heat, the Jazz acquired via trade Mike Brown. So
the Brown Bear.
Yeah, Brown Bear.
Haven't heard that name in a while.
Yeah, Mike Brown Bear.
Yeah,
which was actually a good banger right now. So you're gonna lose 1 player off your roster, and the target date right now they're saying is roughly the 28-29 season.
Yeah.
So it's still a way off, but you got to think about it right now. So it's an absolutely important thing, and those teams will be slightly they'll be struggling for the first 3 or 4 years.
If I remember correctly, at one point the Jazz lost Steph Curry's father.
Yes.
In the expansion draft to Charlotte, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And in fact, Steph Curry's father, who was Del Curry, was a great shooter. They finally, after all these years, they finally retired his jersey the other day.
I saw that. Very cool.
Finally. And Steph Curry's the world's greatest shooter, but his dad was also, at that era, was a close second.
Yeah, Del could really, really shoot it. They're both named Wardell Stephen Curry. Little known fact. So let's get back to the NBA. What's going on right now for a moment? The Cade Cunningham injury to Detroit, combined with the way Boston has looked since Tatum has come back, odds have shifted. I feel like narratives have shifted. Detroit deserves credit. Dennis Lindsey, our old buddy, helping to build that team. Sometimes I watch the Knicks and I go, okay, maybe. And other times I watch the Knicks and I go, absolutely no shot. Cleveland, of course, in the mix. Does it feel like the narrative back east has now shifted towards Boston is going to be the favorite to win this thing?
Yes. Yeah, Boston. 1, they're battle-tested. 2, oh, by the way, they have good players. That's the most important thing. They have a tremendous coach also. And Spencer alluding to right now, Cade Cunningham, God bless him. He has a collapsed lung. He's in return roughly, I'm estimating it's roughly around The first round of the playoffs, which would be, give or take, game 1 or 2, we'll say April 20th or so. I could be off as far as that, but no one knows how to recover about it. But that's a serious injury. The last person to have that injury was C.J. McCollum, and when he played for the Trailblazers, and the recovery time spent was 26 days before playing again. So they need him absolutely. And the question will be right now, when he does come back, will he come back right away as far as in full force as far as impacting every single game, or will there be some sort of slowness as far as roughness on his game where suddenly his legs aren't onto him and he goes 4 for 17 in a playoff game? These are all factors that we don't know how it's going to play out, so it affects it right now. With the Celts, tremendous team, organization. You fill the adjectives in. Those guys know what they're doing. They draft wisely. They sign the correct players, and they play as a unit. And now with Jason Tatum coming back, and each game he's getting stronger. And with Jaylen Brown, they have the bookends, which every team wants. Bookend Spence, small forwards. I'll call both of them 2-guard wings, small forward, hybrid fours. How they all play. They can play 2, 3, and 4 positions. As far as the small 4, they're all effective. But the biggest thing right now for the Celtics right now, what they done with their roster is really Peyton Pritchard. He's the guy, Spence. Think about him. He is the 26th pick of the draft, and the Celts can't win without him.
Yeah. He's been great for them. And I remember watching him here. He played up at the University of Utah a couple times because he was an Oregon kid. And there was a lot to like, and I thought he would have a chance. I didn't think he was going to be this good as an NBA player. He's been very, very impressive.
And also add to that his sidekick, Derek White.
Yeah.
One of the best two-way players in the NBA. We mentioned earlier for the listeners about Jalen Johnson of the Hawks. Well, the Celtics version of that is Derek White, where he is a two-way defensive force. He can score the ball. He can rebound in traffic. He passes the ball ahead. He plays help-to-help with defense. He makes open jump shots. You get the feeling that he's always involved in the scrum as far as getting a loose ball. This is his 9th year. And to think about it, Spence, he went to the University of Colorado, and he was the 29th pick of the draft. And again, I keep talking about these numbers because I want to give credit to the management groups of those teams that drafted these guys. Now, Derek White was for the Spurs originally, all right? But with the Celtics with having right now is that he's really blossomed into a one-time All-Star. You can make a discussion. He can make an All-Star team all the time, and he would right now. And now we're getting, let's not forget, Nick Vucevic is hurt right now.
Mm-hmm.
So Vuce right now, hey, you like him. Good pick-and-pop player, good rebounder, solid, willing screener, never says a word. He just plays the game. He's the perfect guy to be the 4th or 5th starter on a deep playoff team. And that it's possible, Spence, that the other team's big guy forgets he can make a jump shot and that they don't guard him outside. And in a playoff game, he makes 5 straight pick-and-pop jumpers. By the way, I told you so.
Yeah. In the meantime, former Utah State center Nimi Keita's given them some pretty good minutes, hasn't he?
Yes, yeah. Keita is very good around the basket. That guy hustles too, and that he's a little bit underskilled, but he's a lob pass option. He can score. Spence, we call him a recipient scorer, where he needs help to score, which is absolutely fine. I have no problem with that. So short corner spacing, lob pass, dribble handoff action. He rolls to the basket. The defense is late getting there. He gets it and powers through the layups. He makes enough open, we'll say, half hooks in the lane, keep defense honest. He's a willing screener. He's the perfect guy to be a backup center for them. And if Vooch is in foul trouble or he's injured, then he starts for them. He's valuable.
Let me, I alluded the inconsistent nature of Knick basketball this year. Their owner recently took a break from touring with his band JD and the Straight Shot to hop on WFAN in New York and say championship or bust. Nice thing to say. In theory, I think we'd all love, the team that we own or run or cheer for to win a championship. I don't see it, Gordy, with them in this group. Look, they can win a series, maybe 2 in the playoffs, but I don't know that I think they're on the same level as the other Eastern Conference contenders just because of how inconsistent they've been.
Very much, yeah. Right now, they're the 3rd seed. So now, here's my question to you, Spence. Can they beat the Hawks?
Great question.
3 versus 6.
Yeah.
And you're saying, Gordy, the Hawks, what's up with those guys? Well, the Hawks right now, they won 11 in a row, and they are getting better. They're coached by former Jazz headman Quinn Snyder, and that their pieces fit. So the Knickerbockers would play the Hawks in the first round, with Knicks having the advantage as far as home court, but that'll be a tough series.
Yeah.
So, Spence, I think it's going to be eventually, I think it's going to be the Celts getting out of the East with the Pistons and the Cavaliers trying to bite, fight, and claw.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I've landed on it as well. All right, Gordy, let's get to your list. We only have a few minutes remaining.
All right, this list today is to help Spence Checketts and Porter Lawson their self-esteem. All right.
Oh wow,
that's the first thing,
and we need that.
You guys definitely need that. And this is the nicknames of some of the universities that are playing in this year's 2026 NCAA March Madness. Note: many fans pick their brackets winners based on odd reasoning, including the school's 1, nickname, 2, mascots, 3, team colors, 4, their accountant's alma mater, and 4, they once had a shot of tequila on campus 25 years ago earlier. Let's test Spence and Porter's knowledge.
Okay.
I'm going to start out slow.
Okay.
And now, if you're driving right now in traffic on I-15, yell it out also, the name. University of Tennessee. Nickname.
Volunteers.
Okay. Santa Clara.
The Bears.
Ooh, I don't even know that one.
All right. Broncos.
Broncos.
St. John's.
Johnny's. The Redmen.
Yes. Or Red Storm.
Red Storm.
McNeese State.
Oh, dear.
Cowboys.
Correct.
Nice.
Purdue.
Boilermakers.
Yes. High Point U.
The Dancing Cheetahs. I don't know. I should.
Panthers.
Panthers.
Texas Tech.
Red Raiders.
Of course.
Lehigh University.
Bears?
I know this one.
Oh.
Lehigh. Oh, I should know this.
I almost said the high school.
Go ahead.
Mountain Hawks.
Mountain Hawks. Okay.
UVA, Virginia.
Cavaliers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Siena.
This is the Bears.
Siena U. Played Duke yesterday.
I don't know.
Saints.
Siena Saints. Okay.
UCLA.
The Bruins.
Of course.
Furman University.
The Golden Retrievers. I have no idea.
That's a different one.
Oh.
Paladins.
Okay.
Alabama.
Crimson Tide.
It died.
Long Island U.
LIU. I think I'm just going to keep saying Bears until somebody's the Bears. The LIU
Sharks. Used to be called Blackbirds.
That's right.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
KU, Kansas.
Jayhawks.
Yes. Cal Baptist University.
They're the Bears.
Oh, that's Cal. Cal Baptist isn't Bears. It's the Cal Bears. The Cal Baptist Fighting Giraffes.
Lancers.
Oh, yeah.
University of Arkansas.
Razorbacks.
Northern Iowa University.
Northern Iowa.
Northern Iowa is, they're purple and yellow. I can see them.
The Anteaters.
Panthers. Clemson U.
Clemson is the
Tigers.
The Clemson Tigers, yeah. That's right.
Troy U. Troy University.
No clue.
Trojans. University of Georgia.
Bulldogs.
St. Louis University.
Billikens.
Correct. Hofstra U. Spence, Long Island.
I know. I should know. The Hofstra.
Ice-T.
The Hofstra Hens.
The Pride.
The Pride. Yeah.
All right, just 2 more. University of Akron.
The Zips.
LeBrons.
The
Zips.
The Zips.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Right. And the last one, to help you guys self-esteem, we're going to
Right.
end on a positive note here.
Right.
I did this purposely. University of Florida.
The Gators.
The Gators.
I think we did okay. We could have been better. It wasn't as bad as Charles Barkley. They did a thing at halftime today where they had Charles Barkley guess the mascots and then which cities they were in. It didn't. He said the University of Tennessee played in the city of Tennessee, so it didn't go that well for our guy.
That's interesting.
Gordy, love you, dog.
Thanks, guys. Peace out.
That's our great friend Gordy Chaser. We'll catch a break. 3 hours down, 1 hour go. To remind you, IFA Step 1 Crabgrass Preventer and Lawn Food gives your turf a strong start for months of thick emerald grass that will leave your neighbors green with envy. It provides a fast green up, help your grass build up the energy it needs, and it defends against weeds only at IFA. All right, for your 5 o'clock hour of the program, we are going to start the 5 o'clock hour with takeaways from the news today that the University of Utah has released some documents via a public records request from our friends at the Salt Lake Tribune and The Athletic. So I don't like to do anything that I find to be tedious and boring.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to return emails. You've learned that. I don't like to read emails. You've learned that. I don't want to read emails. I don't want to hop on a Zoom meeting. I hopped on one during COVID, and
you're on the toilet. We don't have to share.
Yep. And I was not invited to any more. I thought I was safe. I thought the camera was off, so sat down to handle the business. Anyway, I probably shouldn't say this on air. The open enrollment is going on right now. If I don't change anything, can I just keep what I have?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I believe it rolls over.
Okay.
And you're 4 minutes late, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're done now, but I just checked my email for the first time today. I have 7 reminders to do something before right now.
Well, I hope I'm accurate, but we'll see.
Well, hopefully whatever I have remains. But so when it comes to doing my own taxes, no. When it comes to looking at insurance, just if I get sick, I'll figure it out. As long as I have anyway, no one gives a rip about this. I just don't want to do anything that is tedious and you have to read the fine print.
It's fair. It's fair. I go through and read and delete all my emails obsessively, all my own taxes. I'm kind of the opposite in that way.
Well, I'm proud of you.
But that's more of a compulsive thing, I think.
Oh, I'm proud of you. Probably should be. I just have an accountant. I'm like, you do it.
Well.
Calm down. I know what you're going to say. I don't want to hear it.
Okay.
Shout out to Utah State, 86-76. We do have one team advancing in the tournament. Unfortunately, BYU lost yesterday.
Yachts and stuff are right off.
Okay, all right. That's enough. That's enough. I fly and coach sometimes.
Occasionally.
I sit in the press box when I go to Jazz games and Utah football games.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Did we pull it off today? Do you think we pulled everything off today?
For the most part, okay. It was, as you switched over to the TV thing and did so in the middle of the show, it was the first time we've tried it. So folks who were on the YouTube stream, they might have seen a pretty glitchy situation. That's something you got to figure out as you go. But we did it. We had Morgan on the television, on the radio at the same time, and we kicked it off. So I think we did it. The only thing that would have been different from a listener perspective is I popped on for 5 minutes and did a scoreboard update, right? Which you usually hear at halftime of a Utes game. Well, you heard it during the drive today. That was about it.
Well, the good news is we will not be doing that again. So I will be able to record the podcast separate from this time block. We did take advantage of a break in CBS's coverage of March Madness to televise the first ever episode of the pod. So hopefully you're able to catch it in some way, shape, or form. It was on ESPN 700. It was on CBS. It was on YouTube. And we're going to post it as the first episode of my new podcast in conjunction with Sinclair, which is called Reality Check with Spence Checketts. We're bringing it back. Porter used to produce that when we would do it here. So excited for that. Any takeaways from Morgan? I thought he was great because that's how he always is.
I was going to say and this is not a hot take. This is kind of the consensus is everything he's done since becoming and being named the head coach at the University of Utah, he's kind of knocked out of the park, right? When you talk about winning a press conference, when you talk about a guy that has clearly seen how to do things, how sometimes not to do things, and how to approach getting fans and media on your side, he knows the deal. He knows the assignment. Now, here's the deal. We haven't played a football game yet, right? So I had no questions about Morgan winning the press conference. I had no questions about him in an interview setting. He is a dynamic and fun dude. We'll know more in September is essentially where we're at. And, hey, that's what Morgan will tell you as well. I remember asking him preseason camp questions all the time, and he would just kind of be like, hey, we haven't played football yet. So that's my answer, is what Morgan's answer would be. Let's play some football.
Love it. Good stuff. If you missed it, I'll tell you where you can find it. But I do want to tell you about our friends that you went to golf. PGA Tour leader update. It's the Valspar. That golf course has the snake pit. I think it's the last 3 holes. Sungjae Im is your leader through 2 rounds at 9 under. David Lipsky's at 8 under. Tony, our guy, 4 under par. He's tied for 10th with a bunch of other good golfers. So he will play the weekend. and have a chance to rise up the leaderboards. Love seeing that. Swing into You Into Golf by Worldwide Golf for Titleist limited time loyalty reward promotion. When you special order any 3 of these Titleist dozen golf balls, you'll get another dozen free. I don't know which ones. Just go get some Titleist. All right, Porter, I need a nap. What comes our way on a Monday edition of the show?
On a Monday edition of the program, of course, we'll recap the NCAA tournament, the NBA weekend, the PGA, as you just mentioned. Dr. Chris Hill, who's got a book coming out here momentarily. He will stop by the program. Ken Pomeroy will stop by the program. We'll have a standout from the Real Salt Lake weekend as well. And then I'm hoping our buddy Spencer Nelson is available on a Monday again after what was a very impressive first-round performance from the Utah State Aggies.
Yeah, shout out to the Aggies. They advance. Now they take on Arizona. We'll say goodnight. Special thank you today to Howard Beck, Josh Grant, Morgan Scally, and Gordy Chiesa. If you miss any of the sound from the show today, go to the website, which is ESPN700sports.com. Make sure to download our mobile app, Take Us on the Go. That ESPN 700 app is free in the App Store. And then for what we do in our space, we have a podcast. It's called The Drive with Spence Checketts. You can also now search Reality Check with Spence Checketts. A couple of options for you. Follow both. Subscribe to both. Give love to both. Because we lead with love here on the show. That's Porter. I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have a great weekend. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Talk to you on a Monday edition of The Drive. And as always, you can catch it right here on ESPN 700.